FM 900 AM, WURDradio.com on your live stream, WURDradio.com when you're not in Philly proper, when you're not in the Delaware, Greater Philly area, but you're throughout the nation and throughout the world. We are on a live stream at WURDradio.com and WURD TV as well. Many of you watching us on WURD TV, good morning to you, top of the morning. There at Facebook.com/4word and YouTube.com/onWURD as well. I'm Charles Ellison. I'm your host, executive producer, also creator of Reality Check here this Tuesday morning. And you can reach me at Ellison Report on Twitter.com. All you have to do is just tag me at Ellison Report on Twitter.com, hashtag Reality Check. And the phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check, 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Excuse me. Just clearing my throat here a little bit. Took a little bit of morning run. Just went outside just to get a little bit of that frigid air. It is 35 degrees outside in Philadelphia, and a little bit of a snowy, slight rainy mix. Nothing unusual as far as a Philly winter day. So I hope everyone is staying safe out there as they are. If they need to drive around in this weather, don't slip and slide around. Just take your time, please. Take your time. Don't rush. 215-634-8065. Toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. The phone lines are open at the moment. 215-634-8065. Toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. So, City Council is back. City Council is back for City Council Live. That is this Thursday, so you will be able to hear the Philadelphia City Council as they are back from their holiday recess, their winter holiday recess. That starts or is expected to start 10 a.m. sharp this Thursday. Don't forget, for more information, go to phlcouncil.com for more information, phlcouncil.com for more information. If you are interested in giving testimony, or giving public testimony at the City Council Committee of the Whole. If you're interested in doing that, or excuse me, public comment, that is, during the City Council meeting of the Whole. So I'm going to put this out here. I'm going to try to make a habit out of reminding people as often as possible to do this, because we don't want to have a situation, because people always express their discontent with City Council. They want City Council to do more, or they're very concerned about an issue. But then we have City Council hearings. There have been multiple City Council lives where there's been no public comment. No one's been providing any comments. So let's try to fix that, because I know people have a lot to say. People are concerned about these bills, these proposed policies that City Council is deliberating over. So you have an opportunity. It's free. You can do it virtually now. To comment on that legislation, on those pieces of policy. So if you're interested in participating in the public comment period during the City Council meeting of the Whole, which is this Thursday, you must call 215, get your pens out, or, your smartphones if you want to type this down. Call 215-686-3406. Once again, that number is 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. tomorrow, by 3 p.m. on Wednesday. So this is every week. The Wednesday, you have to call 3 p.m. by the Wednesday before the City Council session of the Whole if you want to provide public comment. Once again, that number is 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. tomorrow, and you need to submit the following information: your full name, a callback telephone number where you can be reached. You need to identify the bill number or resolution number that's being addressed tomorrow, and state whether your comments are for or against that particular bill or resolution. Now, once again, go to phlcouncil.com for more information. Now, there's a number of bills and resolutions on scheduled for final passage tomorrow. You can get that information. Once again, I don't want to read out that information in the interest of time and just in the interest of, trying to also cover other issues, local, state, and national here on Reality Check this Tuesday morning. But you can easily just go to phlcouncil.com. You'll see the navigation bar at the top of the website at phlcouncil.com. You go to council meeting calendar, and then you're going to see, you'll just put in city council and all committees, and you're going to see, well, it's not available now, but it'll be available, it should be available soon, but you would see the agenda or the scheduled agenda for this Thursday, January 28th. Now, I've always had, I've always been confused sometimes. A lot of times the scheduled agenda that I may get and other people may get and other media people may get from the city clerk, Michael Decker, may not match what ends up happening live in city council, which is sometimes confusing and frankly, it's just slightly irksome because I'm like, okay, like you want to have it all in front of you, but then we have to there's a lot of pivoting and whatnot that takes place, I guess, right before they finally do meet at 10 a.m. on Thursday. But that agenda should be there shortly. Typically it is. Another thing too, you should know there is a public hearing in Philadelphia City Council on Friday, January 29th at 1 p.m. It's the Special Committee on Child Separation in Philadelphia. The Special Committee on Child Separation in Philadelphia is holding a hearing on that topic on Friday at 1 p.m. It'll be remotely. It's a resolution, and it's about resolution number 190798, a resolution authorizing the establishment of a special committee on child separation in Philadelphia to review child separation in Philly's child welfare system and develop recommendations to ensure compliance with state child protective services law to protect children and due process rights of families and prevent the unnecessary breakup of families. That's a very, very important issue, and I know it's an issue that is very personal and close to many people out there, not just in Philly but elsewhere. That's been a big issue for a number of years and generations. People have dealt with some serious decades-long, generational-long trauma because of state-sanctioned child separation. We talk about child separation on the border, but we have child separation happening, particularly child separation targeting Black families in cities like Philadelphia. So that's a worthwhile topic to go over. City Council will be talking about that and looking to establish a special committee on child separation in Philly this Friday, January 29th at 1 p.m. You can submit testimony on that topic or on that resolution. And so you need to call by 3 p.m. this Thursday, 610-741-9495. So that's 610-741-9495, or send an email to Tyler Debussy. That's tyler.debusi@phila.gov by 3 p.m. the day before. And you got to submit various information, your full name, your callback number, and you need to identify, well, you need to just let them know you're going to be talking about that resolution. Nothing else you should be talking about except for child separation if you're interested in weighing in on that topic during that committee meeting on Friday. So that's that. We're just looking forward to City Council Live. Also, Wednesday, February 3rd, next Wednesday, February 3rd, a big issue that everyone's ignoring: education, the state of K through 12 education. We keep talking about school closures, when schools are going to reopen. We have not been having a meaningful or worthwhile conversation on the state of K through 12 education and how devastating and destructive it is, particularly on the most underserved student populations, like Black populations in Philly, for example, that we're finding out as we keep having this conversation. Many people out there cannot read because of the failure of the public school system. But there is a need to talk about education equity. There is a major national ed equity forum, it's free. I highly recommend people listening to it or check it out. National Education, or the National Forum on Education Equity. You can register and watch it live, or you can just, after everything has taken place, you can watch it in perpetuity. Go to strideedequity.com to register free. So that's next Wednesday, February 3rd, strideedequity.com. People are just not having a conversation. We tend to take K through 12 education for granted, and we're not being, very attentive enough to the needs of our young people as they are struggling already through pandemic in unequal school systems. So there's a forum on how do we achieve full education equity. So the extent of our education conversation is not whether or not a school should be closed during pandemic. The extent of that conversation is whether or not your child can read and can do basic math and know basic science. If that is not happening, then your school district or the school, or even if it's not a school district, it's a private school or a charter school you're sending your child to, they are failing. And so we need to figure out how to fix that. Go to Stride, STRIDE, strideedequity.com for more information. Also, next Thursday, I'll be moderating another forum, another Toward Racial Justice forum for WITF Public Media. And we're going to have them on starting next week on a regular basis to talk about what Black communities and other indigenous, other underserved communities in central Pennsylvania are going through. So we're going to be much more deliberative about that and produce a more continuous segment to kind of find out what our brethren and sisters in central PA are going through, the types of struggles that they deal with in conjunction with WITF, but I'll be hosting and moderating. So go to witf.org/racial justice for more information, or witf.org, and you can watch that. That's free too. That's next Thursday night at 7 p.m. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Just doing a little bit of housekeeping there, just to make sure everyone knows what's happening and what's up. And the City Council Live will be coming back to you on this Thursday. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Also, there's a little bit of controversy, excuse me. Excuse me. There's a little bit of controversy over Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. And so the Biden administration yesterday announcing that they are going to revive that plan. They're going to pursue it. As you all recall, the Trump administration had completely dismantled that plan to place Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill to replace former president, former white nationalist Andrew Jackson from the $20 bill. So it was an Obama administration plan in 2016. President Obama, of course, like many other people, incorrectly thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win the election, and she didn't. So predictably, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin under Trump did away with that plan to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. It was announced yesterday the Biden administration is going to move forward with that. Quite surprisingly, because this wasn't an issue when President Obama had proposed it and then had pushed forward with it under his through his Treasury Secretary at the time. There was some strong rebuke, at least on social media, from many Black public intellectuals, thought leaders, and folks, social media influencers who don't like the idea of Harriet Tubman being on the $20 bill. I didn't know that this was an issue. Apparently it is. So wanted to get your thoughts as well, if you think that putting Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill is the wrong thing to do. I had some thoughts about it. I just put some quick thoughts together at the B Note, our companion magazine to this program. What's suddenly wrong with putting Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill? That's the title of it. Go to thebnote.com, THEBnote.com, and I would love to get your thoughts on it and seeing, if there's something that I'm missing there. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. That's just me. This is my opinion. I don't think it's, we've got bigger fish to fry anyway, but I think it's a significant move. I think it's more than symbolic. We have been talking about how we as a nation, particularly white people like the ones that attacked the U.S. Capitol just a few weeks ago, need these essential history lessons. Maybe if we as a nation had more of them, or more of those brutally frank history lessons were forced on everyone, we'd be winning half the battle at least, because the history lesson is just so important. Americans are very illiterate when it comes to the history of very important, essential things like the history of slavery, the history of the Civil War, what prompted the Civil War, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, why black people are in the condition that they're in. People don't know that history. There's a lot of black people that don't know that history. So as a result, we have a lot of these issues we keep dealing with even 150 years after the Civil War is done, after 150 years after Appomattox, after the surrender was signed by Confederate forces. We still have this ongoing issue. Civil War is still going on. And that's just because people don't know the history. Let me go to Ms. Sandra out of Oak Lane, who's been waiting patiently for a reality check here on WURD. Ms. Sandra, how are you doing?
Hey, Charles, how are you?
How are you doing?
On the topic of child separation,
right.
In May, the judges are going to be on the slate for election. So I'm saying I would like to know what are the statistics of the judges that sit in family court that remand children, specifically black children, for placement and separation.
That's a very good question. I don't know.
Because the judge has the ultimate say whether that child is removed from the home. If DHS removes the child, they still have to go in front of a judge.
Yeah.
So I would like to know, judges that are currently on the bench at family court, who are they sending away? Are they trying to find other alternatives for our children, or are they just snatching these children from the families and sending them out of the county, out of state? What's going on here? Because like I said, we got to pay attention to the judges that are going to be placed as candidates in May, because we or our families could be standing in front of them for civil litigation, appellate litigation, or criminal litigation. And we need to pay attention to these judges.
Yeah, we do. And we don't pay enough attention to them. And so there's a start of that. There was a report, right, that I remember being issued last night. I was just looking back at it because you triggered something. I remember that report. It was from the Center for Urban and Racial Equity. And they had conducted what was called an equity organizational assessment of the First Judicial Court of Pennsylvania, and primarily the family court. And they found, I'm quoting the report here, a culture of nepotism, mistrust, and racial tension constantly brewing at the city's courts, and a troubling pattern of racial resentment. So they were looking at the First Judicial District, and they were also looking at that family court. I haven't looked at that. I remember that report. I remember seeing summaries on it. I have not looked deeply enough in that report, Ms. Sandra, but that's a very good question. Like, is that something that we're not paying attention to it, obviously, and those judicial.
As we get closer to May, hopefully we'll pay more attention, because I don't know how these judges who are running are going to get their message out for who they are because of the COVID. I don't know how, they're going to be presented. And I would not like to be, having to go vote not knowing who's up for, a judgeship.
Right. And what is their record in terms of black family separation? Like, do they have do they show a high rate of separating black families, of separating children from their family?
Yes.
Right. I agree.
Yes.
I agree. That's a good Michael Cord question once again, too. I think it's a good, because I know that Michael Cord had reportedly, along with, they had sent a letter after that report came out to the First Judicial District. And so he had teamed up with Municipal Judge Karen Simmons, and they demanded like an immediate response from the First Judicial District. So it sounds like that's something like Michael Cord is looking at, and so maybe he and I need to talk, and
Well, the
we need to
judges
team up.
are required to keep statistics. Every month they have to send the statistics to the president judge.
Okay.
On cases that are adjudicated. So there is a paper trail. And I think we really need to look deeply into this and look into this, because these judges can say, oh, I want to be assigned to family court and I'm going to do this for the youth. But the truth is, once they become a judge, they send them to judge school for a couple of weeks, and then they are assigned wherever they're assigned, not necessarily family court. They go where they're assigned, and then they rotate these judges. So we need to know more about this culture, and because the judges are basically not exposed at all. Everything is being put on DHS, but DHS has to stand in front of a judge. So we need to know more about the decisions that these judges are making for our youth.
I agree. I totally agree. Let's look into it. Let's do it. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's a good issue. So I have some homework, Ms. Sandra. Thank you for that. So for more on Philadelphia courts, such as the First Judicial District, go to courts.phila.gov, courts.phila.gov. And so I don't know offhand where that information is housed, because you would think that kind of information would be housed at a central place online. It's an important issue, so we need to follow up on it. All right, and we'll figure out how to do just that. Let's take a break. When we come back on the other side, we're supposed to talk, speaking of Philly, just doing some local issues here this morning, this 10 o'clock hour. We're slated to talk with Karen Fegley. She is the Deputy Director of Commerce at the Philadelphia Department of Commerce. She's going to be coming up next here to talk with us. It was actually prompted by a question that Prince out of Schuylkill was asking about relief to small businesses, particularly to small businesses in the more underserved populations in the city of Philadelphia. So she's supposed to come up next and join us, talk about that here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV. No, sorry. I'm a little bit ahead of myself as far as, nope, that's tomorrow. What we have today, excuse me, I went a little bit off there. I'm sorry, we have State Representative Derisha Parkers who's supposed to be joining us next. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit off on the calendar. Okay, let's go ahead and take a break. I'm reading all that wrong, and then we'll be right back here on Reality Check. Thanks.
I'm Anthony McLaurin. Been denied insurance? Call 888-307-0505. Life insurance, age 0 to 85, no examination needed. Homeowners insurance, any home, any condition, same-day coverage. 888-307-0505. Auto insurance, we can have you covered in 15 minutes. Business insurance, call 24 hours a day, 888-307-0505. I'm Anthony McLaurin. When you need insurance, I can help.
Jobs, entrepreneurship opportunities, small business resources, and financial literacy. Livelihood. The new initiative from WURD Radio to connect Philadelphians to resources to help take the next steps in their professional lives. WordWorks.com features career readiness tools, entrepreneurship resources, funding opportunities, and events to expand your livelihood. Visit WURDworks.com right now and take the next step in your professional journey. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network. Keeping you informed. As a community service, WURD Radio and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium wants to keep you informed about where you can get no-cost, barrier-free COVID-19 testing this week. Monday, January 25th from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. at SEPTA Suburban Station, 16th and JFK Boulevard. Tuesday, January 26th from 3 p.m. till 7 p.m. at Esperanza Health Center, 4417 North 6th Street. And Thursday, January 28th from 3 p.m. till 7 p.m. at Mastery Charter School, Cleveland Campus, 3701 North 19th Street. Stay informed and stay well with WURD Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, State Representative Derisha Parker is the newly elected representative for the 198th District in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's parts of Philadelphia. Of course, for more on her, go to pahouse.com/dparker, particularly if you are a resident or constituent in the 198th Legislative District. She joins us by Skype. You can see her on WURD TV here on Reality Check. Representative, how are you doing? And Happy New Year, all that good stuff to you. Hope the family's doing well.
Oh, thank you so kindly, and Happy New Year to you and the WURD family. Thank you so kindly.
Excellent. And congratulations to you as well. So
Thank you, sir.
Right. What's it been like? So this is very new for you. Well, I mean, the field of politics, the arena of politics is nothing new to you, but this is your first elected office. So what's that transition been like from, being in the arena of politics as primarily a strategist, consultant, working on a number of campaigns. Now you're in the business of policy making. So what's that transition been like?
Again, the business of policy making, the best opportunity that I had was from 26-year veteran. She was the African American caucus leader, Secretary Caucus, that was State Representative Rosita Youngblood. Mm-hmm. And by being a policy leader, by being a staffer per se, the best thing is the fact that I was a staffer. Yeah. So the transition was smooth because I was already working in the office. I was already reading the legislation. Mm-hmm. I was looking at the bills. I was doing everything. So now all of that just comes full circle by actually being the legislator doing that. Okay,
good. So it's been a fairly smooth transition for you. What are those right now? This is sort of a two-part question. What are those issues that are important to you personally that you've looked at, worked on for a number of years that are important to you that you're prioritizing right now? But then what are those issues that your constituents in the 198th are telling you you need to focus on right now?
So what I'm prioritizing right now is the fact that everything as far as the committees that I'm on are important as a priority. For example, I just left the older adult committee. So when you have that older senior population, that's extremely important to me because I think of my mother's age, I think of grandmothers, I think of, 70 years old and all those people who haven't been able to interact with us due to this big, nasty virus. So that is extremely important to me. In addition to the environment, knocking on wood as I do have asthma. So the environment is very extremely highly important to me. And as it relates to the education, jobs, opportunity, apprenticeships through the unions, and just having a decent quality of life. That means the street that you live on is clean and everything around you should be safe and friendly. You should be able to have a cup of coffee on your block without worrying about dodging a bullet. So those are the things that are extremely important to me.
Yeah. Does that match? Or do those priorities you feel, do they match constituent concerns? Like, are they coming to you and they're saying, hey, you know what, I've got asthma too. I'm worried about the environment as well. Or, you know what, I'm looking out too for the elder person in my family, or I am an elder person, but these seem to match what constituents are telling you as far as what their concerns are?
Yes, it really does. It's a activist grassroots group called the Neighbors Against the Power Plant. And I'm still work alongside with them as it relates to environmental issues. You have individuals who are caretakers in a different role, meaning they were the child at one point. Now they have to actually take care of their parent. That means they're thinking of the wills and the estates and what happens to their properties and making sure that the paperwork is it actually their parent's home? Those are the type of things that's very important. And when you talk about constituent service, that means you also want constituents at minimum, Charles. If you don't know 5 individuals, first and last name, on your block, how can individuals like myself as a from the elected official assist you in our matters if you don't know your block? So I think that's also the best part of my relationship with Town Watch, making sure individuals know who they are and how they can get the proper things that they need.
Yeah, no, that's always important. We're talking with State Representative Derisha Parker, the newly elected representative for the 198th Legislative District in Philadelphia. We're going to open up the phone lines. That's our reality check rule. You know, when we have state, local elected officials in the area, do open up the phone lines at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 if you have a question for your newly elected state representative. The committees that you're on, you know, aging and adult services, you had just mentioned that, agriculture and rural affairs, consumer affairs, you are also on the commerce. You know, talk about these committee assignments, how they're working for you so far. What are the priorities in each of these committees? Agriculture and rural affairs, that might seem, you know, I always have conversations with state legislators around the country occasionally, Representative, and you know, I remember having a conversation with a state senator out in Wisconsin, a black state senator. She was punished because she was very outspoken about issues dealing with her primarily black district in Wisconsin and Milwaukee. And so to punish her, they put her on agriculture. So at first she was like, I don't know how this is going to work out for me because I'm a city girl, you know, like, why am I on the agriculture committee? But then she found out, she's like, wow, this is real lucrative here, especially these conversations about legalizing cannabis. So now she's like, it totally backfired on, you know, like those leaders in the legislature trying to muzzle her. How do you feel about being on the agriculture committee, being in a very city, urban place like Philadelphia?
Well, when you think about being on that type of a committee, the best thing to me is all of the opportunities that come with being on that committee, okay? I think of the fact that how I can give individuals like our children an opportunity to take them outside of the inner city, to the rural farms, to talk about the agriculture, talk about how they can be a farmer, to look at the dairy, to look at how much, actually, when you think of 70 million tons of food that we have to destroy and waste, and then you actually look at why we can actually show individuals how they can grow their own food and their own crops. I look at that as a valuable asset, especially when you're thinking about the urban community and we're in a pandemic, and the fact that you got to think of other ways of how to eat. This is the best the committee for me, that I'm going to be able to teach individuals another skill set that they never probably even thought about. And just changing their mind and think of rural areas, thinking of the rural parts of our Commonwealth. That's pretty much, you know, maybe like 2 hours away from Philadelphia, and it would just give them a change of life in their perspective. So I'm extremely excited and looking forward to doing that. I'm also excited with the fact that I'm setting up an interview with our Secretary of Agriculture. And to make sure that our children have a chance to interview him. Those are the type of things that I'm extremely excited about doing, and bringing those resources back to the district. If you show somebody how to farm, if you show somebody how to build a business, then they pretty much can take care of themselves. And that's the whole generational wealth that we're talking about.
You know, you're heading into the legislature, going to Harrisburg at a very, very difficult, intense time, right? And
what does that mean?
Right.
I mean, and Charles, because you know me well enough, you know I don't BS. So let's talk about it.
Exactly.
We've been in the deficit as it relates to the minority for over a decade. So when you're saying I'm just heading into something that was already familiar to me anyway. So to start a conversation off with a negative, that means my outcome is going to be negative. I don't look at that.
Let's talk about, I mean, the maelstrom of tension in terms of, you know, we had the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, and then we had Senate Republicans refusing to seat someone who was legitimately elected. What's that relationship? I mean, how do you get things done as a state representative? How does your Philadelphia delegation and colleagues, the Black Caucus as well, get things done dealing with a very seditious Republican opposition like that, and that's in the majority? So how do we propose, what's that plan, that strategy to get resources back to Philly when you have like so much conflict and tension? I mean, I wonder what it's like for you having to go to Harrisburg, and then you've got to deal with the potential of armed protesters. You know, so you know, particularly in this climate that we're living in right now, I do wonder about that.
Well, for everybody, let's just talk about my reality, okay? Let's just talk about that. We're talking about almost a year that I took a leave of absence to run. Let's just talk about the fact that then A couple of months later, you get 3 to 4 different addresses, not three to four different dates that the election is actually going to occur. Then you're smack dab in the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So these are the things to me that's already has been happening. And now you're talking about me now being a state representative in an environment that's always been around. Here's, you know, there's a famous quote by the late Dr. Maya Angelou: when a person shows you who they are, believe them. And I think what happens to individuals, you keep harboring on what's happening and you haven't been dealing with the institutionalized racism that has been plaguing our country for years. The only difference now is everything is polarized because of social media and hashtags and the adolescent idiot that currently, that used to reside in the White House. He's no longer there. So there were certain things that was showed to us now. So now you're talking about me and my job and what I have to do. And the bottom line is, when I'm going to Harrisburg, as I'm here now today, why start a conversation off with things like you just said, as far as individuals and their personalities? Okay, that's not going to help me make a difference in my district. That's not going to help me make a difference. But what do? I do what you say. You got to coalesce. You got to have conversation. And there's just going to be times that I have to meet with the majority. All of the committees that I sit on are chaired by the majority. So what does that also mean? That means they've already met. We're meeting with them privately. We're having conversations to bring home the bacon to my district of the 198th district. Why? Because they deserve it. That's why, because they work for their constituents, and that's what they sent me to Harrisburg to do. They didn't send me to Harrisburg to whine and complain. They came for me to bring back to do the result. And I am a solution-driven individual, and that's what I'm going to do.
Let me ask you about also the amount of federal relief that's coming to the Commonwealth. So we had this recent $900 billion federal relief package, $858 million set aside for rental assistance, because we have about $900 million in back rent throughout Pennsylvania. Last time we did this with CARES Act money, $108 million lost to the state prison system that should have went to people's rent. So 62% of the federal relief funds for Pennsylvania set aside for rental assistance went to the prison system, something that was set up by Republicans. So how do we ensure that this money isn't getting lost again? How do you and your delegation, particularly for Philly, because a lot of people are angry about that, and they keep asking me about it, and they keep asking state reps, state senators about it. How are you all keeping track of all of that $858 million? Because there's a lot of people with back rent due in Philadelphia who could use that money.
And you brought up a valid question. Learn from your mistakes and learn to make sure that these things don't happen again. But you also got to realize the fact that you're talking about that we are in the minority, correct? So basically, by having the bills and having the discussions in the caucuses that we have, making sure that we can earmark that the money goes into the designated area. I just got off with the phone with a constituent who's a business owner who's worried about the CARES Act money and worrying about how it's actually going to save his business and also help him from, getting out of the verge of foreclosure. So those are the things that we're having as far as our caucuses and our strategic plans, to making sure that these steps are put in place to make sure that our individuals get the money. So bottom line.
Do we make sure when we get these monies, that we're not dealing with antiquated disbursement systems, making sure how to also, are you making sure you're getting your staff prepared for getting constituent calls for people who are like tenants, who are back on rent? Okay, so you're making sure that and everyone's making sure that those systems are in place, that everything's running smoothly.
Absolutely. And then guess what? None of us are perfect, and there's going to be some glitches in the road. So we're looking at a lot of the glitches that occurred last year when we were smack dab with the pandemic and didn't know a lot of these things. Now it's here upon us, and we know, and we have safeguards that's in place that we can make sure that these things don't happen again. Again, we're still talking about the government. We're still talking about a lot of things. And you see, I don't give you promises. I just say, as a legislator, it's our job to make sure that we provide the resources. And it's provide to make sure that individuals have access to what is rightfully theirs.
Yeah. We're talking with State Representative Darisha Parker, 198th Legislative District, newly elected. Go to pahouse.com/D Parker for more information on her, and also at Rep Darisha on social media, on Twitter, especially if you like to try to engage with her, try to get more out of her as well. Representative, before I let you go, also just sort of real curious about kind of what are the plans? Where do you all go from here as far as a legislative black caucus? So you got new leadership there. I am curious too about the environmental agenda because you were talking
I
about
know
how
you
you're
are.
big on it.
I know.
Yeah, no, and that's something I'm real interested and curious about. I know, like for example, we got to go from dealing with environmental justice to also dealing with how do we get Pennsylvania on a better clean energy track.
Yes.
With anything specifically that you're working on with respect to that?
Yes. Well, one of the things, let's talk about, even before you segue to the environment, you talked about the Legislative Black Caucus. I am happy to announce that I am chair of Black Women and Girls, which is a subcommittee of the Legislative Black Caucus. So you can see where my focus is going to be. As you can see, I am a female, and it's not an African-American woman's or women's organization for all of my years that I have not been involved with. So that's definitely going to be on my priority as it relates to gun violence, infant mortality, and women incarceration, and making sure they have opportunities. And it's also, as far as this last pandemic, talking about how many African American women have lost their jobs due to this pandemic, and finding out how we can give them relief. So that, and now we're going to segue into the environmental, which is, something that you and I are both passionate about. And I'm looking forward to seeing the issues that you're talking about to provide solution. Here's my big thing when you're talking about environmental, and it looks like you and I, okay? The 19140 zip code, okay, in Nice South has like the highest level of asthma amongst African American children, correct? That's not, that means it wasn't a coincidence that coronavirus cases were one of the highest in that region, okay? So what does that also mean for people like me? That means I am not going to allow or tolerate any big businesses giving and pollutants into areas that look like us with the Black and brown, okay? So that means we need to do better jobs with myself in partnership with URD and you to inform our community why COVID you got to understand about. And let's even before COVID, the environment is important. What you breathe, what you put in your body is what you put out. So we need to do a better job and make sure that that terminology of tree huggers, we got to start being these type of tree huggers and be involved with our environment.
What sort of, I am real curious because you represent Nicetown. So you have this natural gas plant, the SEPTA natural gas plant in Nicetown. So what are those conversations like with SEPTA about removing that natural? Because it's like Philly on one hand, as a city says, we want to go full clean energy, but then they're opening up natural gas plants, whether it's SEPTA or PGW. And so what sort of influence do you have over those conversations and those types of decisions?
Well, it's interesting. I just met with the general manager and just our SEPTA team last week, and I was unapologetic about the septic gas plant, and I was unapologetic about how I felt, and I'm looking forward to moving forward. And one of the things they appreciate is the fact that I was honest about my feelings, and I was honest about that we need to move forward and not exclude. We need to not exclude, but include the community going forward with anything that SEPTA or any type of business makes when it comes to environment in this district.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's something we want to continue to follow up on, especially, I grew up in neighboring Logan. And, and it's just that, I see places like Los Angeles, for example, that mayor was like, hey, listen, we have control over natural gas plants here. We're shutting them down. Long term, we're shutting these down. Philadelphia, though, is like, well, we're going to open them up while we try to go clean energy. It just seems like a contradiction, but I'm glad that you're focused on that. Let's continue to keep in touch on that issue. State Representative Darisha Parker, pahouse.com/dparker, 198th Legislative District, and at Rep Darisha for more there. Please, Representative, stay in touch. We look forward to having you back.
I appreciate you and thank you. And I am actually checking in from Harrisburg, so I just wanted you to see that I'm actually here doing the people's work.
Be safe. No, I know you are. So be safe out there, please. Yeah, be safe out there.
We definitely will.
Yeah, and thanks so much. Good luck to you. Take care.
Thank you so much. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back on the other side, I believe we have phone lines open. Phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Today, millions of Americans face barriers to obtaining a college degree. But at WGU, we're setting out to change that. With a range of scholarships and grants aimed at expanding access to a quality education, making tuition more affordable, and giving students a path forward, we're helping people turn obstacles into opportunities. Because everyone deserves a chance to succeed. WGU, ambition never rests. Visit WGU.edu to learn more.
America's kids are returning to class, in school and at home. And this year, learning is especially tough on students who already struggle with poverty, emotional trauma, and other barriers.
That's where our organization, Communities in Schools, can help. For years, we've had caring adults inside schools, helping these students stay in school.
And now, we are taking our work beyond the school walls, tutoring, mentoring, and counseling students, providing resources for at-home learning,
Delivering meals, providing household supplies, connecting kids with online classrooms, and using technology to maintain the one-on-one relationships we know can transform the lives of students and their families.
We are doing whatever it takes to make sure all kids have the opportunity to learn and succeed.
Communities in Schools, going wherever we are needed to help those students who are most in need thrive.
To see how you can help kids succeed, visit communitiesinschools.org. That's communitiesinschools.org.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Welcome back to Reality Check. Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Phone lines are open. Phone lines were open in our previous segment with State Representative Derisha Parker, so if you did not know, so hopefully I'm sure we'll have her on next time. pahouse.com/dparker, and for more on her, newly elected for the 198th District, representing parts of Germantown, Nicetown, Tioga, and LaSalle. So if you're in that district, you might want to start reaching out to her, getting to learn more about her, and establishing some kind of contact or rhythm with her office on a variety of important issues. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let me go to Sister Murray out of Northern Liberties, calling in for a Reality Check. Sister Murray?
Hey, Charles, how are you?
How you doing? All right.
Hey, I'm doing awesome. Thanks for taking my call. I know it's been a minute. It's been a lot going on, and I know when you were out there in D.C., it had to have been the ultimate moment, because this is history in the making. Now, Charles, Rosa Parks.
Yes, ma'am.
She walked that walk. She deserved to be on that $20 bill. Is it going to make that $20 bill any less than a $20 bill?
Oh, you mean you're talking about Harriet Tubman being on the
Harriet
$20
Tubman.
bill?
Yeah. Sorry. Harriet
Right. Will it make the $20 bill any less valued? Is that
Yeah.
what you're asking?
Yeah. No.
Right.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No.
I don't think so either. So, yes, she earned that. She is history, and we're in history making right now. This is the activity of history. And we can't, we will probably never see this again in our lifetime, Charles. Maybe our kids, but probably not us. But, Charles, listen, the trash, you were talking to the council person a couple of days ago, I think it was last week, about this new program about getting up trash and how to get people, and they're going to pay them $15 an hour. Well, Charles, you could just turn every corner. There's somebody who needs $15 an hour. You have halfway houses across the street from the Met. You have anywhere in Northfield, you have parents who have high school students who are out of school who need money to keep them out the street doing things harmful to other people. Let them get these jobs. You don't have to go look nowhere. All you have to do is just reach out. They're there. They're next door to you. They're next door to me. They're everywhere. So what we need to do, we need to come into this new normal clean. North Philly needs to be cleaned up. It's going to take a village. It's going to take all of us to get in here and clean this place up. And we can do this, Charles, but we got to have somebody who's dedicated, somebody who is determined, somebody who is listening and willing to do the work, and we're all willing to do the work. And, you know, this Black Talk Radio show is awesome. You give us all the info, all the knowledge that we need. I know everybody who listens to this radio station is not black, and it's all different kind of races, but money is still green. So still, get your membership. Reach out to WRD. Give some advice. Get some input. If you change one person mindset, what it was before, to a new, to love and to cherish and to help each other, Charles, you know how many lives you can change? Let's make a difference. Let's continue to buy memberships, reach out. Let's continue to put the word out there. And, Charles, you're doing an awesome job. Continue to do what you're doing. You're going to be blessed, your family, and everyone at WRD. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Charles. Have a blessed day.
Hey, you too. Thanks so much, Sister Murray. Appreciate that. We definitely need that motivational moment, and you always bring it. You deliver it when you call in. So it's good to hear from you. Audrey, Ms. Audrey out of Mount Airy is calling in for a reality check. Ms. Audrey?
Yes. Good morning, Charles, and good morning, WURD family. It's good to talk with you again in this new year, 2021. And I first want to say congratulations to all of us who voted for Biden's administration. So we're there. My reason for calling is to chime in behind the last caller as well as Representative Parker regarding that section of Tioga, Germantown, and what have you. And I do also believe Councilman Curtis would be involved with this because of the Salvation Army. I'm not sure where his district is, but that's across the street from the SEPTA depot where a lot is going on, which is actually the Budd family areas, which is what I know it to be. What I think I know that Philadelphia doesn't like the idea of exposing the hand, but what is most vivid in my mind is that Mr. Brown of the ShopRite did mention that whenever he was having an underground problem, that he had a lot of difficulty getting assistance. Now, we all know that when Budd closed, that the whole Abbotsford section family was affected, which is the Tioga section, Germantown, what have you. But we also know that they were rushed to get that job done. So as far as cleaning the environment and getting those factors done, we really do need a cooperation of knowing just who it is that is holding us back from getting that job done well. And I want to just finish with saying that much appreciation for the Budd family and their attorneys for having the austere audacity to bring back the issues that did not get resolved in their bankruptcy petition. So with that said, we also are aware that Mr. Trump wanted to put a casino there. So we won in a big way, but we also got to fix those problem areas underground.
Yeah, no, that's thank you for that. No, that's that absolutely, that's not going to happen. Appreciate you, Ms. Audrey, for calling. I appreciate those thoughts. Let me go to before we head into the 11 o'clock hour. Ms. Kathy out of Mount Airy is calling in for a reality check.
Hey, Charles, how are you? It's so good to talk with you. This is my first time calling your program.
All right, how are you doing? Good morning. Good morning. Thanks so much. I appreciate the enthusiasm. I appreciate the energy. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm driving, so just bear with me. I have a question.
Be careful. Be careful now, especially out there.
Safe.
If it's a little slippery.
I'm safe.
Okay.
I have a question for you. So I'm wondering if after the domestic terrorists did what they did on January the 6th, if they had succeeded, what would have happened? Would Donald Trump have remained in power? Like, what would have happened had that succeeded? I'm just curious because I've heard different things, and I thought you would be a good person to ask.
You know, I like that question. Speculation is that, okay, so between that happening and if that had aligned with a successful effort on the part of the president to reinstall a new attorney general who would have went 100% full throttle on these false, these baseless election fraud, voter fraud claims, there's a potential that, yeah, the inauguration could have been held up, or we would have had some sort of major conflict, either a standoff or something getting even worse, or the violence getting worse, particularly if that had succeeded, if that attack had succeeded in success. It seemed like the success metric for them, Kathy, was kidnapping legislators and potentially assassinating them. That was the plan. And so, yeah, I mean, that pretty much, and then he could have, I think the plan, I think what he was thinking in his head was, one, I've got these people, if they can take over the Capitol, kidnap and assassinate. Two, I get this new attorney general who puts out, like, you know, takes away all the stops, takes the foot off the brake and goes full throttle on this baseless voter fraud thing, and you know, and so stops and then sprinkles all sorts of legal doubt over the Electoral College. And then, you know, the situation on Capitol Hill and the nation's capital is so chaotic that, okay, I, as president, since I'm president now, I'm going to go ahead and enforce martial law, and I've got a Justice Department that'll back me up on it. Yeah, it could have been real messy. It could have been very messy. That's why people are looking at that, because they just announced yesterday, the Inspector General at the Justice Department just announced an investigation into exactly what the president was about to do, what moves were big. The only reason he didn't do it, and it would have been a very dramatic and very dangerous move, the only reason he didn't do it, replace that the acting Attorney General with his own loyalist, who was ready to go full forward on the voter fraud thing, is because most of the attorneys in the Justice Department, who were the heads of divisions and offices, chief Justice Department folks, were ready to resign en masse. They just told the president, hey, listen, if you do this, we're all resigning. So that he didn't expect that. You know, he was like, oh, they'll probably want to still keep their jobs. No, they were like, this is dangerous. This is really dangerous powder keg stuff. You're like lighting a match and putting it on fuel here, Mr. President. We're going to resign. If you do it, we will resign en masse. You'll have no one in this Justice Department to help you, or acting AG Rosen, who he was trying to install. So that's what kept us from, or that kept that from happening, and that's why the IG in the Justice Department is investigating that. It was about to get real serious, Kathy.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I know it would have thrown us into a constitutional crisis too, but I was just curious, like, what worst case scenario, had that succeeded, what kind of America would be living in right now, and would Trump have been able to stay in power? Yeah. So I was just curious. Well, thank you so much.
No, I think, you know, we need to, I appreciate the question, Kathy, and I know it can be depressing sometimes and very dark to think about. And, you know, some people may say, oh, well, it didn't happen. You know, let's just, count our blessings and move on. But no, we need to think about what could have happened, so we figure out a way to prevent something like this from happening again. We had that national security expert on.
Because you know what I mean? Someone's waiting in the wings to try to make it happen again. You know that's happening as we speak.
It's happening, right? Oh yeah. Folks are in sleep mode right now. Yeah, there's an insurgency that's in the making right now. It's been going on for quite some time. We've seen signs and flashes of it going back, especially to Charlottesville, even before Charlottesville. This has been going on. This has been ongoing. And so, you know, people can put their heads in the sand and act like, oh, you know, we dodged a bullet. You know, even like when we talk about January 6th being an insurrection, I even sometimes cringe at that term a little bit. To me, it was an attack. It's not a one-off, but insurrection makes it sound like that was the complete totality of it. Like, oh, that was the moment, and now we dodged a bullet. It's done. The insurrection is over. Yeah. No, it's not. Like, this is real serious. They're going to keep troops in D.C. through March, and they could go beyond that. So we're going to have National Guardsmen in the nation's capital through March. That's Army already announced that. And so it's serious. So they have intelligence to suggest that, hey, there are sleeper cells that are out there. They're waiting. They're looking for an opportunity. And so we all have to stay vigilant. Kathy, I got to let you go. Please drive safely out there. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate you listening in too. Take care. All right, let me take a break. And when we come back on the other side, we're supposed to be talking with urban planner Pete Saunders. He's coming up next here on the Corner Side Yard. He's coming up next here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Did you know you can use LIHEAP to pay your PICO bill? Last year, PICO customers received almost $17 million in free LIHEAP support. This year, take advantage. This deal is first come, first served. Apply now. Call 800-34-HELP-4.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager. And Tony Staten
Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD. This is WURD Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM in Philly proper and beyond, throughout the nation, throughout the world. We are WURDradio.com, also WURD TV. So WURD TV is at facebook.com/forward, and on YouTube, it's youtube.com/onWURD. Joining us now, we have him here with us every couple of weeks, is Pete Saunders, renowned urban planning expert, focuses a lot on cities. He's the publisher of a great, insightful blog called Corner Side Yard. Go to the Corner Side Yard, cornersideyard.blogspot.com for more there, and some great insights on cities, the state of cities and the future of cities, and particularly how we as long-time vulnerable communities adapt to these trends that are happening in these metropolitan areas. So we bring on Pete Saunders, always like his insights, to come on and join us and talk about those issues. He joins us live by Skype. Pete, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great, Charles. Glad as always to be here.
All right, good to have you, really. You know, I was having a fascinating conversation with a transportation expert last week about mass transit, the state of it right now, the future of it. It's in a really terrible state. I'm sure you see just the struggles, the challenges that big mass transit systems like in Chicago, for example, deal with. Where is mass transit, as you're looking at that and how cities are handling, you know, dramatic, very destructive drops in commuter ridership and how that's affecting mass transit systems financially? Where are mass transit systems right now? What are you worried about when you look at them?
Well, quite honestly, I think they're on life support right now.
Wow.
They are struggling. The pandemic has really cut deep into their revenues, cut into their budgets, and has really pulled back ridership. And because of that, they're really struggling right now. But I guess the good news is, the silver lining on this dark cloud is that they are probably in a better place than they've been in the last 4 years with President Joe Biden now in office. I think that there's going to be some serious efforts to be able to bring some funding back. However, I'm concerned that there's going to be an issue of further deterioration of infrastructure before there's real substantial money that gets to it and makes the repairs.
Do you think that someone like the new transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg, okay, so he was the mayor of a small town. So, you know, when we talk about mass transit systems, we're not talking about small cities. We're talking about big cities. Even though, you know, maybe there's an opportunity here, and Pete Buttigieg, you know, he likes to fashion himself as sort of a big thinker type person. Maybe there's an opportunity here to now look at or plan for expanded mass transit systems. You know, not to just think of them as big city systems, but to think of them as regional, statewide systems. Do you think he gets it as far as this problem of this challenge of mass transit is concerned?
I think he does. I think even though, I've been to South Bend, I'm familiar with South Bend. You're right, it's not a big city at all.
No.
But what I've seen is that he has implemented some things even at that level, at that scale, that have been pretty transformative in terms of transportation. He expanded their, you might look at it differently, but he expanded their bike and pedestrian networks. He included lots of roundabouts and turning circles in certain areas to help ease traffic. He imposed some road diets. I think he gets a lot about transportation. Now, you're right that most of the mass transit issues are going to be big city issues, but I think he's probably surrounded himself with enough of the right people and the good people who are going to be in his ear and say, look, we need to be able to forward this money to these resources in Philadelphia and Chicago and New York and other cities around the country so that they can deal with the really pressing mass transit issues that they have.
Yeah. How do we, one thing that strikes me about the Federal Transportation Department and other departments of transportation, whether it's federal, state, and local, is they seem more designed to manage automobiles than they do to manage mass transit systems or to manage more efficient and more environmentally, ecologically friendly ways of getting from point A to point B. Is that your sort of your perception of that too? And so that worries me that we're going to be like the Department of Transportation, even with a big thinker like Pete Buttigieg, is still going to be focused on, instead of being focused on, hey, how do we get people to drive less? It'll be more like, oh, how do we come up with federal dollars to build more highways or to expand highways? And that worries me, especially in a time like this.
Yeah, without a doubt, that has been the bias of the Department of Transportation since probably the 50s, ever since the Interstate Highway Program was put into place. And it's been like that for a good 50, 60, 70 years now. Yeah. I think it's moving away from there. I think that one of the things that's happened over the last 10, 15 years or so is a greater recognition of the importance of mass transit, not only as an effective way of moving people around, but an environmentally efficient way of serving those people too. So I think that more and more people need to are realizing the benefits of mass transit. But I wrote a piece recently in another for another publication called Governing Magazine that talks about mesofacts, which are facts that change slowly over time. And basically, there is this mindset and this bias that is auto-dependent, auto-oriented, and it's going to take some time for that. That's a mesofact. That's a fact that's changing slowly over time. That we're a nation that's auto-dependent, auto-oriented, but there are more places that are becoming multimodal, and I think that you'll see more and more people express that opinion and rise to the levels in leadership in transportation organizations and be able to start making good decisions about how to fund them. Yeah,
exactly. I think that's just going to be just so important. Because the other thing too is the conflict between mass transit systems, and the existential threat that they face, and rideshare. The rise of, or the overusage. There's a lot of overusage of rideshare systems. People using them as like the mass transit alternative. Companies like Lyft and Uber and others. And I know a lot of people out there. They depend on their employees or their contractors. They're depending on that as sort of their revenue stream. So that's the only job they have. But we're going to have to find some balance there, particularly in a time where, cars, vehicles are a leading cause of air pollution and are one of the reasons why we're in this climate crisis that we're in right now. One of the main reasons, one of the main drivers of that. I mean, how do we reconcile that? How do cities manage that?
That's a great question. I don't know. I know that Uber in particular, probably to a lesser extent Lyft, one of the ways that they're trying to address that is by going with more or trying to bring forward more electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. So actually that's an existential threat to some of the contractors who are working as drivers right now. To be able to have a car automatically come pick up somebody and then take them with no driver. And what does that mean to the people whose side hustle is driving for Uber or Lyft? But that's definitely one thing that Uber and Lyft are working on right now. But from an environmental standpoint, it's the appropriate way to address the challenges that they bring to the table. So I think they're going to do that. I do think that we're going to look at bus systems and mass transit systems that can serve smaller populations, niche populations. It might be that, for example, public transportation systems start to integrate some sort of Uber type service so that they can take people from here to there, door to door, which is something, one of the problems that usually occurs with mass transit on a limited basis. Maybe they cut service, and maintain, primary rush hour service in some areas, but then, transfer to some other kind of Uber-like service at other off hours of the day. So I think that there's going to be some of those things that they'll think about trying to do, but we'll just have to see. Yeah,
we definitely have to see. I could probably see something like, well, I don't know if you've heard anything like this too, Pete, because it's a fascinating topic. We can go on for hours about it. We could probably get to the point where there's a public-private partnership to keep these mass transit systems afloat. Like, couldn't we see something, I don't know, hypothetically, where, say, like a major multi-billion-dollar, multi-country conglomerate like an Uber says, okay, hey, you know what, we'll give us ownership share into a system like SEPTA in Philadelphia. We'll help keep it afloat, but we get a portion of X amount of revenues. I mean, I could see something like that happening where mass transit systems suddenly become more reliant upon private corporations to step in, keep them afloat, and then really those mass transit systems become the extension of those ride shares. So I know that those conversations have taken place. I wonder if, what you think. I mean, just in terms of imagining, but then I worry, how does that impact vulnerable urban or metropolitan area populations, particularly as those populations are getting more and more, due to gentrification, like we discussed before, getting pushed out into the suburbs?
I think it's a great idea to have those kind of public-private partnerships together. In most cases, I'm sure Philadelphia is pretty much the same way, but in most cases in cities that have large mass transit systems, those started as private systems. I know certainly here in Chicago, it started as private streetcar systems, private subway systems, private commuter line systems. I'm pretty sure the main line in Philadelphia probably started as a private system that eventually got pulled into the public sphere. I think there were benefits for pulling it completely into the private sphere, but what ended up happening is it rammed up right up next to that automobile bias in the transportation systems and was never funded in the same way. So there were people who thought it was, the right way to address the funding concerns, but it was never given the amount of money that it really needed from the beginning. So it's been a starved system forever. I think you're probably right. A public-private partnership is probably something that could benefit them the most, but we'll have to figure out what that structure is going to be. It could include something like an Uber. It could include, other private organizations that are interested in doing it.
Yeah. One thing we do all agree on, we do need to focus a lot more on the state of these mass transit systems, because a lot of people are going to get hurt. People not being able to travel within their cities or the places they live, not being able to get to their jobs. People relying on this. That's the other thing, is the stigmatization around mass transit. Who takes mass transit? And so, the mass transit is going through a bit of a branding problem too, because it's primarily seen as, even like things like buses. A bus. Well, that's not something that, a middle-class professional like us takes, to go to and from work. Subways are fine and regional rail lines are fine, but no, not a bus. But then a lot of people relying on a bus because maybe that train or rail infrastructure has just not reached where people need to go. So there's a need to kind of reimagine what that all looks like, because of these very stressed populations really heavily relying on things like bus routes.
I did a lot of work on what I called the jobs housing mismatch, which basically means that where people live, particularly low income and disadvantaged residents in some communities in different metropolitan areas, where they live and where the jobs are, there's a just huge disconnect between them. Meaning, you've got some places that are, big edge city type areas that have malls and offices and plenty of jobs in there, but there's no easy way for residents who need those jobs to be able to get there. And that's a problem. That is definitely a problem. And one of the ways that people have tried to address that, it really gets down to the the whole issue of segregation and how we've put that in place. You know, it's intentional that it's happened that way. It's intentional that these jobs have been put in places that have been hard for people of color to be able to get to. And that makes it harder for us to have the jobs. And you have to see how all these things are connected in terms of how we live, how we work, how we travel, how we get there, and put it all together.
Yeah, no, I agree. We were talking with Pete Saunders, urban planner, publisher of the Corner Side Yard. Go to cornersideyard.blogspot.com. How encouraged are you, Pete, about you know, the promise of city aid, of municipal aid, coming from new pandemic relief packages? But how now should cities be using that? Because obviously they can get that in the last round, the $900 billion they're promised, definitely a substantial amount to help them balance their ledgers in the new pandemic relief. But, you know, what's sort of your expectation of how this relief should be used and used efficiently, effectively?
Well, I think a lot of cities are going to be using them to fill the gaps that they have in their budgets right now. I think I remember reading somewhere that DC spent about $100 million on the cleanup as it relates to the riot that happened at Congress. So, and that was money that they, you know, didn't budget for. No one budgets for something like that. But you know, it's going to be a problem for a lot of cities. But I think that they're going to use it to fill those gaps and probably do the best that they can to ramp up the vaccinations as they relate to the pandemic, and just put that money out there so that more and more people can get healthy and strengthen the economy, because that'll be the other way that we'll improve our budget revenues, is just by making for a stronger economy. More people back to work, more people paying their taxes, and helping in that way. So it's going to be tough. I think business will probably do, private sector will do much better in the near future than the public sector. The public sector has kind of lagged behind what's happening in the private sector for a little while now, and I hate to say that, but that's just the nature of it, because I work in it. But you know, I'm hoping that they'll use it in the best way to be able to fill those gaps and recoup, or just fill the gaps.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I mean, is the we haven't talked a lot about the, and I've been seeing the trends. Real quick, if you can kind of give us some insight on that while we got you for about a minute or two more, the strain that this has had on public sector workforces, particularly your municipal workers, state government workers. We never think about that, and a large chunk of the public sector workforce is non-white. I think it's like a quarter of state and local workers are black. A lot of people don't realize, you know, nationally, when we look at that workforce, that's significant. And so when we talk about these cuts, you know, we saw this during the recession. And I had to deal with this personally during recession too, back at that time, working for a major city and getting caught up in that. A lot of people did major public sector employee cuts. And, you know, so you had like literally a quarter of the black middle class evaporate during the recession. A lot of that black middle class still has not caught up because of the hits on public sector workforces.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that. I am somebody who's gone through that, through that blender as well. There are a lot of people.
It's not fun. Yeah,
it's not fun. But there's been lots and lots of cuts. You're right. People of color, particularly blacks, have been disproportionately impacted by cuts at the federal, state, and local levels. And that's just been a problem really ever since the Great Recession, ever since 2008 or so. I was fortunate enough to kind of withstand it for some parts of that, but even the community that I was working in at that time was offering buyouts. And even as I chose a new job, they said, well, great. You can take this buyout on your way out the door because you're really helping us by leaving, you know. So it's been tough, and actually here we are probably 12, 13 years later, and that job has not been filled. And that's been the course for a lot of cities nationwide. And even at the state level, here in Illinois, probably a good 20–25% of workers are African American or other people of color. So it's been a problem. It's been a problem, and it's a big part of the Black middle class in particular.
Yeah, yeah. It's also a problem in terms of urban planning too. Because it's like in urban planning or how cities operate, because then you have fewer diverse perspectives, or Black people who are in positions where they can oversee these big trends and these big changes in cities and states, and that's needed. Particularly in terms of how we address these ongoing challenges and issues, like gentrification, for example, or segregation, or like we were talking about with mass transit systems. Well, you have like more and more Black public sector workers, for example, displaced because of these hits economically. Then finally, when cities do get settled in, well, suddenly their workforces and the people making decisions are mostly white, and so are more and more white, and and still trying to manage issues and challenges that are faced by non-white populations.
Yeah. Interesting thing. There's a debate going on in Chicago right now regarding commuter lines that are being reviewed and reviewed for potential renovations and updates that are located in Chicago. Problem is that many of the residents who live in those neighborhoods where they exist in the south and west sides have never used them, but they're being viewed as opportunities for suburbanites to be able to stop in inner city neighborhoods and maybe contribute to the gentrification of those areas. So you're right that we need to have that perspective of diversity in the opinions of diverse individuals so that we can have the right discussions.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely need to continue to do that. We've been talking with Pete Saunders. Always good talking with you, Mike. There's a bunch of other issues I have for you, but we always run out of time with you. Like, there's so much to talk about. I know. Yeah, just do like an hour-long session with Pete. Yeah, So but we get this time with you. We really do appreciate it. Pete Saunders, I'm glad we met up with you. Pete Saunders, urban planner, also publisher of the Corner Side Yard. Go to cornersideyard.blogspot.com for more there, to get more of his quality insights at cornersideyard.blogspot.com. Also go to @PeteSaunders3 on social media, on Twitter, if you like.
That is correct.
All right. PeteSaunders3. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Hey, one quick thing,
Go ahead.
Real fast, that I just want to be able to say, I'm sorry for putting my son on blast. It's a snow day, and I'm sitting in my teenage son's bedroom, so that's what it looks like right now.
I like that. I like the good vibes only. I'm watching that. I'm like, okay, that's a new thing. Maybe that's the new Corner Side Yard logo. Good vibes only. So it seems like he's keeping the room up. Keeping it clean. So it's all good. We appreciate that.
Okay.
Good action. Good luck to you, man. I'll talk to you next time.
Okay.
All right.
Take care. All right.
Take care. All right. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we're scheduled to talk with Stefan Hankin for a weekly strategist segment here on Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Need to replace your Social Security card? In most states, you can request one online with a My Social Security account. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can also get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Your child deserves to be educated in a safe and supportive learning environment. Southwest Leadership Academy Charter School, a tuition-free public school, is accepting applications for the 2021-2022 school year. SLAC's 2 locations offer single-gender classrooms in a dual-gender environment. Kindergarten and first-grade classrooms have a 15-to-1 student-teacher ratio. Students learn music, art, and fitness. Southwest Leadership educates the whole child, preparing students to become leaders. slacks-phila.org, Instagram at Southwest Leadership Academy, or email info@slacks-phila.org.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Stefan Hankin, I think we're going to try to reach him by Skype. Hopefully he'll be here shortly. We'll just go ahead and open the phone lines while we do that. 215-634-8065, toll free 866 215-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065. Toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Phone lines are open while we try to hail Stefan Hankin. Hopefully we will get him shortly. And in the meantime, we'll keep the phone lines open at 634-8065. Toll free. It is 866-361-0900. Stefan, based in Washington, D.C., President, CEO of, there you go, Mike. I think that's him. Stefan Hankin, President, CEO of Lincoln Park Strategies. Go to lpstrategies.com. Also had helped us out here at WURD last year to put out the first of major national polls on black voter attitudes ahead of the 2020 election. I think we have Stefan. Stefan, how are you doing, sir? You're live. Can you hear us?
Oh, awesome.
That's okay. All right, we like it. We like to keep it real on Reality Check. So we'll let you come in via WURD TV. Stefan Hankin. Once again, you can go to Lincoln Park Strategies, lpstrategies.com. Let's see if we can try it. Are we able to get you by video as well, Stefan?
Yeah, hold on 1 second.
All right, excellent, excellent. So we'll go ahead and let Stefan. There we go. Excellent. What's happening, man?
Not too much. Sorry.
No, please, no apologies, man. Like, not at all. Yeah, we appreciate you as always. Stefan regularly joins us here on our weekly strategist segment here on Reality Check. At LP Strategies on social media, especially on Twitter. He's highly engaged there, and lpstrategies.com for some wonderful insights. That's why we bring him on regularly. Always like to hear from him, see what's on his mind. Hope all is well with you, Stefan.
We're hanging in there, doing as well as we can.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. So Democrats have taken over the Senate, but they're not acting like it. So that's one of the big concerns here. One of the big gripes that a lot of people have. There is this impression that Mitch McConnell is still the Senate Majority Leader. Why do we still have that impression here? What can Democrats do? It is a slim tiebreaker tight majority that Democrats have. But how can they sort of beat their chest more to show that, hey, we're the ones in control here. We need to get our agenda passed.
Right. I mean, the challenge is, when you have 50, obviously every single senator is the most important senator in the room on the Democratic side.
Yeah.
So if, one or two decide to go a little rogue, it's not overly helpful for the party in general. And, and I'm talking obviously about Senators Manchin and Sinema from West Virginia and Arizona, respectively, who came out and were like, basically we're against changing the filibuster, which, like, I think is fine, but like what I don't understand is why you would give up why give up that chip, right? Like, why not go in and be like, look, we're not necessarily supportive of changing it, but like, here are the 5 things I want to pass, and McConnell, if you don't go along with it, then we're open to changing the filibuster. Like, basically, they're giving them their advantage.
Yeah, I agree with that. That filibuster question is key here. Right now, that was part of the deal. That's because we had, I don't know if people realize, we had a 5-day standoff that was going on. Republicans still sat in committee chairs, for even since Democrats took over the Senate, and because Schumer, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell couldn't come to a deal or couldn't come to a power sharing arrangement. And in order to get that power sharing arrangement, Mitch McConnell was pretty much steadfast on his insistence for keeping the filibuster. But I don't know, Stefan, from what you're saying, and you've studied the Senate, you've written some really outstanding pieces, analysis on the problems with the Senate. Is there a way to circumvent or kind of go around? I've seen some literature on that, to go around the filibuster. Okay, well, we have the filibuster here, but here's some other options like reconciliation for budget, like pieces of legislation, maybe other ways to, I've heard the term called not nuking the filibuster, but mini nuking it. Do you have any sense of that? Like maybe there's some ways to get around this if people are so intent, including President Biden, who's like, you know what, you know what, I'm not doing away with the filibuster. So, you know, you guys just work it out.
Right. Yeah. So the reconciliation works only for budget issues. And the reason that the short version of why that's in there is just to make sure that basically the minority can't just hold up literally government because budget issues can't go. So you can pass short-term spending bills with only 50% and you can't filibuster it. So, but in order to do anything outside of the budget, they would have to make it a budget issue, which you can do, obviously, because everything requires money. You just have to sort of be a little creative in your workings of what it is. Now, the challenge is there's a sunset, and I forget off the top of my head how long it can go, but it's only like you can't go, a law can't last a lot more than, I think it's 10 years if it's done with reconciliation. So it's hard to pass. I mean, you can, but it's hard to pass like, you know, large, let's say, environmental policy through reconciliation because you know, you put a clock on your changes and then they automatically go away after 10 years. So, and then the mini nuking, what people are sort of saying is you can only filibuster it for so long, right? That you kind of get a week and then there's another vote. And then like, you know, and then one of the plans I've seen is like, you need to keep getting like a larger percent of senators to go along with the filibuster in order for it to stay. So you're kind of giving the minority a chance to delay things, but they can't completely block everything.
Got it.
You know, I mean, what's the sad thing is, I mean, like, you know, this was put in place to ensure that the minority views were not stampeded and run over, right?
Yeah.
But now, and I'll put the blame on the Republicans, like Republicans have now used it as this is their tool to get what they want.
Yeah, they weaponized it.
The majority of Americans want.
Yeah, they weaponized it to a large extent.
Yeah.
The other thing though, how the Democratic leadership, how do they balance? Because you know you can use reconciliation to get through things like pandemic relief, but and then you still have to, like you said, you still have this problem with one or two rogue senators, like a Senator Manchin out of West Virginia, senator, which is like, I mean, that population is like just under the size of, I mean, it's just over the size of Philadelphia's population, that whole state. Arizona obviously is a much larger place, Senator Sinema, so, you know, she's probably, you know, flexing here. But, you know, you can pass things like that, but you're going to have a real hard time trying to pass things. You got to be creative trying to pass things like voting rights, civil rights, climate crisis. And so, you know, it's going to be really hard and really difficult trying to balance expectations, right, with the more progressive wing of the Democratic Party, who's like, listen, you got to get these things, and also black voters, the black electorate, who right now is under the impression that, you know what, we got you here, Biden, and you're not being aggressive enough. Hey, Senate, we got you those 2 new Senate seats, and you're not being aggressive enough on our issues like voting rights, civil rights, for example.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, you know, what Biden and Democrats in the Senate need to come to grips with is the fact that we pretty much don't have 2 functioning parties. We have a functioning party, the Democrats, and we have the mess that is the Republican Party, right? And they're not coming to the table in good faith. The vast majority of Republican senators are not interested in solving the bigger problems in this country. And I mean, we even had 8 senators who voted to overturn the votes of 90 million plus Americans. So, you know, that's what we're dealing with on the side. So, and I know Biden's like heart is in, I'll call it, in the right place, and he wants to do this through negotiations, right? But they have to very quickly put a marker down to make sure that any Republican at the table is negotiating in good faith. And if they're not, you got to move on, right? Like, because you're just wasting time.
Yeah. Do you like this approach, though, with Biden, though, in the sense that, okay, I guess you can make the argument. I was reading Karen Tumulty in the Washington Post, and she was saying, you know what, we're starting to see signs of this patient approach of Biden's paying off, where it's like, okay, hey, you know what, just be cool. Just let them sort it out. Give it a few days, and then eventually, you know, you guys will come to a power sharing agreement, which is what they did. Hey, you know what, let's be patient. Yeah, it's taking a little bit of time to get some of these cabinet nominees confirmed. But you know what? They'll get, and so he is starting to get, find like a rhythm in getting cabinet nominees confirmed. This sort of slow and steady approach. We saw that during his campaign. Do you think that's something worthwhile over the long term, Stefan, particularly in an environment like this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's who he is, right? So I think it's going to be hard to change the man. And I mean, personally, I'll say I'm fine with it as long as we're not allowing them to just string out things that they have no intention of going along. Right. So if you look back at the Obamacare original negotiations back in like 2009, 2010, right, Republicans were asking for all these different things, different changes. I mean, for most of them, Democrats were being pretty good about including things, and then none of them ended up voting for it, right? So it's like there has to be a way to basically ensure that the people who you're negotiating with, making deals with, and being patient with are ultimately there as good faith actors, and not allowing them to just hijack. So I think, yes, I mean, like, look, I think Biden's approach can be very effective, but they need to be keeping an eye on the gamesmanship and make sure that we're not getting played.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. We're talking with, once again, Stefan Hankin, lpstrategies.com, from where they're also Trendency Research. Don't forget about going to his also the other research arm called Trendency. That's trendnc.com from more there, talking with us. He regularly joins us on our strategist segments here on WRD's, talking to us live from Washington, D.C., from the nation's capital. Join us here on Reality Check. Stefan, and how do, there's that other big question. I want to get your thoughts on this because you've been watching the black vote very closely since 2020. You did a poll that we partnered up with you on to release about black voter sentiment in 2020. Because right now there's a lot of discontent among many corridors and many sectors of the black electorate. People feeling as if, he's not moving strong enough, the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris team not moving strong enough on issues that are key to them that they said they would move rather swiftly on once they were getting elected. So how to I don't know, what sort of rhythm do they need to establish here? What better message do they need to put out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, they need to be out there and showing urgency, or at least talking urgency, right? Like that, you need to at least have people have faith that they understand the problem, and that this isn't we have 3 years to wait before things start changing. People are hurting. They're hurting now, and they need to have at least a feeling that their hurt is being addressed or will be addressed in short order, right? So, and now this goes against sort of the wait and be patient approach, right? So it's like that's a fine internal, when you're in DC in the building, so to speak, type of approach, right? But the people who put you in office need to feel some urgency and understand that, there is an understanding of what people are going through. So I think, that's going to be the key to Biden's success, is if he can not only show the results in the long term through legislation, but also make that connection and keep people feeling that he hears them, he feels their suffering, their pain, and is doing something to it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Any as we approach 2022, and I know people are going to be looking at the Senate very closely. Are you starting to look at that, Stefan, like those key Senate races? And we have Rob Portman out of Ohio. He announced his resignation. People are pretty much suggesting that, that's a Jim Jordan shoo-in, the really belligerent congressman who people need to be reminded was covering up a sexual molestation scandal at the Ohio State University wrestling team. Like, people need to be constantly reminded about that. But that's what people are saying. Jim Jordan is probably going to shoo-in for Ohio Senate. I don't know, unless maybe it becomes Marcia Fudge. She steps down from HUD, goes statewide. I don't know. What are you thinking about? What are the states that you're looking at? Are you starting to pay attention to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting. So Ohio, North Carolina,
Pennsylvania, right?
Pennsylvania,
stepping out.
Right. So, 3 Republicans who are not going to be running again, so open seats, which obviously creates a good opportunity for Democrats, and a lot of it's going to depend on who comes out of those primaries, right? So in Ohio, Ohio's definitely moved forward into the red column, like there's no question about it. But you have, one Democratic senator there already who's, quite liberal, and so there's always exceptions to the rule. But I think, Jim Jordan comes out of the primary. I think Democrats have a chance. If it's a more moderate Republican, then I think that becomes a difficult seat to win. But I think in general the map looks pretty good for Democrats, and we'll have to obviously we got 2 years to go, and a lot of things can happen. So, but and then Wisconsin's certainly in play with Senator Johnson up there, who was one of the 8 who voted against certifying the results, and I think the other big question is, like, what is the Republican Party 2 years from now, right? Is it standing? Is it 2 parties? Like, what's going on there? And obviously that will have a big effect on the election results.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And so it's still too early. The map might look good right now, but the map looked good for Democrats, right, back in 2019, early 2020, and look what happened. A few races we were surprised by, we were stunned by. And then obviously runoff things worked out. We were stunned by kind of results and the outcome in Georgia. But definitely going to keep a close eye on that and maybe talk a little bit more deeply about it in our next session with Stefan Hankin, who joins us regularly for our weekly strategist segment. Stefan, always good seeing you, man. Hope everything is well, and please stay safe.
Always great to be on, and I'll be more ready next time.
No, you're good, man. Everything's good. No, we appreciate you as always. Take care. All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Buying something from a dealer just sounds a bit, well, put it like this. My cousin Ray Ray got arrested for buying something from a dealer. So why would you want to buy your car from a dealer? Hi, everybody. This is Nick inviting you to buy your next car from Jerry over at Cardex. See, they're not dealers. They're like a car concierge service. They design a car around you. Almost any make. If it's not on the lot, they'll go out and get it for you. So use my car concierge, where I've already bought 4 cars. Cardex at 116 East Glenside Avenue in Glenside, Pennsylvania. Check them out online at cardexinc.com. Or call Cardex at 215-886-3230.
WURD Radio presents the following wellness tip to support our listeners with mindfulness and motivation as we continue to navigate the pandemic together.
Hi, this is Halana, your resident health and wellness coach, with tips to help you stay well. We breathe every day and have been doing so since before we were born. But wait, let's think about this for a moment. Something as simple as breathing can enhance our health and well-being. When we breathe mindfully, we slow down, take deep breaths, and activate our parasympathetic system to relax our bodies. Mindful breathing goes like this. Number 1, find a comfortable place to sit still for a few minutes. Number 2, close your eyes and relax your hands on your thighs. Number 3, take a deep breath in and count to 3. Then exhale your breath and count to 3. Do this 5 times. We sometimes think mindful breathing has to be an intense experience, yet even just a few minutes a day can make a big difference. Go ahead and try it today. Stay well with WURD. Happy living.
Stay well with WURD. Connect with us at WURDradio.com.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
On Reality Check 96.1, FM 900, AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Phone lines are open 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Just want to go into comments here on Facebook Live. Good morning to you, Shannon Nicholson. Appreciate you, and thanks for putting out the phone lines, the hotline here to the WURD Studios. If folks would like to call in, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. And good morning, back at you, Malcolm White, listening from West Mount Airy. Good morning, Andre Terry. Good morning, Shannon Nicholson. Once again, Raphael Suleiman. Good morning to you. Good morning to Renee Mills, Diane Fassett, Eggy Potter, Casa Sarah, rise and shine back at you. So we fully rise, we have fully risen, and we are shining even on a cloudy day. So really appreciate you. Tanya Bell, thanks so much for posting that legislative calendar for Philadelphia City Council. Appreciate that. Cedric Milner, greetings back at you. Fresh ginger and lemon tea, good look, wakes you up from within. You know, you're absolutely right about that too. You know, get some, ginger is always very, very good. You can get some like organic powdered ginger from things like if you want to get it delivered to you like Amazon. So highly recommend ginger tea every day as much as you can. Put a little bit of lemon on it too. Shirley J. Carter, good morning back at you. Diane Fassett, first thing we need to ask City Council, why were they on break this long? Gee, if I took a break from my job like that, I wouldn't have a job. So technically, council will tell you they weren't on break. They were on a recess just for hearings and sessions alone. But we've been talking about that, Diane, and I know that this is one of those conversations, I have it occasionally, that irks. I know it gets under the skin of people, especially like the city council president. We had a back and forth on that. I remember it was about a couple of years ago. I still take that stand. The city council is going to have to do a better job of looking, of not looking like they're on a break or looking like they're on a vacation, or maybe coming up with another way to describe that. Because folks like you, don't treat residents and constituents like they're dumb. There's a lot of smart people out there in a place like Philadelphia who have a lot of issues and concerns they want addressed, and just address them. I mean, a lot of times the game of policymaking. Well, it's not a game, but the process of policymaking is about people's perceptions and optics. And it looks like City Council's on a break. And it looks like they're just chilling over the course of, so you got to figure out creative ways to keep that momentum going, especially when the city just got through with 500 people getting murdered in a year and over 3,000 people being shot. And I want to put that in context too in a few moments. I want to go to the phone lines, but and just looking at some of these comments here on Facebook Live. But I don't think city leaders really realize. I don't think so. I know they had what they felt like was a successful gun buyback program. I think they got nearly 230 guns that the city bought back, and that's pretty substantial. But it's unfortunate that things like that don't get put into high gear until we have a tragedy like like an 8-year-old girl being shot in the head due to a firearm in a household going off accidentally, and that parent should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. That parent's just going to have to suffer for the rest of their lives. You shouldn't have had you should have had those conversations with your kids about guns if you're going to have a gun in the house. And then 2, you shouldn't have had a gun in the house if you're not properly, taking all the proper safety precautions. And now, I'm not feeling sorry for the parent here. I'm feeling sorry for this child who lost it, will now has no life to look forward to, life lost. People have got to be, if you're going to want, you have people here now having a big conversation, black people especially having a big conversation about, I want to get guns. And, what, we're in this day and age and, the extremists, they got guns, we need to get guns too. Okay, you want to get guns and you want to have guns in your household, then do it correctly. Don't do it in a knee-jerk way and then endanger yourself and then the young people, the people in your household with those firearms. It's not cute. It's not a cute conversation about getting a gun and showing off that you're getting a gun and telling, it's not. It's dangerous. And we see, look at what happened. A young life terminated, ended abruptly, and that didn't have to happen. And so I'm just, but I keep hearing this conversation because everybody's like, yeah, I got to get guns. I got to get a gun. And it's like, well, now, like, do you even know how to properly or safely own one? No, apparently no. We have situations like that. Let me go to the phone lines. Prince out of Schuylkill is calling in for a reality check. Prince?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning.
Yeah, they should have locked both parents up. But don't make it.
They should lock both. You're right. You're absolutely right. Look, I should say that both of those parents need to get locked up and locked up for a long time. I'm not feeling sorry for these parents. Maybe some other people out there are probably feeling sorry for them. I'm not. Like, both parents need to just go get locked up.
Right, because they left some kids unattended. Both of
That's
them
right.
left those kids unattended. Yeah. And I don't want to harp too long on that, but I think
I agree with you, Prince.
They keep locking us up. It's always the male that is suffering the blunt or the burden, but it was the mom and the dad living in that household. So
You're right.
The DA don't have no discretion. Those two parents were parenting those three kids. Both of them should be locked up and let them bail themselves out and handle it through the court system. That level of discretion is bad. It looks bad for us as black males out here. It looks bad for us as a race of people, and it's also it looks bad that a child has lost their life inside of 2021. We had so many lose their life last year. So what I wanted to talk to you about is city council when they want something, when the guys are investing in them or putting in money in their campaign, they'll go out and they'll do research and they'll find the best way to service their campaign donors. And that's way different than their constituents, And so when they wanted tiny houses, Alan Dobb and Boudier or Judier, whatever her name is, all of them went other places to research those tiny houses. But if you go out in Plymouth Meeting and Ambler and those places right there where the city council are functioning and effective, they have 8 councils. They all do a Zoom call, and then they have every resident in that town get on a multi-Zoom platform and be able and give them 2 minutes. So that means they get to see the council, and the council gets to see them. And so what I don't want is I don't want folks to keep telling me that this city is lacks education and it lacks formality with academia and stuff like that. And then you make it very difficult for them to communicate with you. And then people translate this awful approach. If it's 1.5 million people in this city and only 10 people are calling city council in reference to issues and stuff like that, then that's a problem. Don't tell me how to do it. It's a fundamental problem because those 17 people are making decisions for 1.5 million people who might pay taxes in this city right here. So something needs to be done that makes it more inclusive. Doesn't make it more segregated because that's what you have. So if you were to do the numbers to get the results from the people calling in, 10 out of 1.5, that's just new black people, 10 out of 444,000, that is bad. That's bad on the president. That's bad on every council person. And I hope it reflects by people going out voting them out because it seems that I didn't hear from Darryl Clark until that Caucasian 25-year-old who went to Temple got shot. Other than that, he never came on TV and talked about how he could make it better for us to call in that city council or how we can talk about doing programs and stuff for these guns. When that 25-year-old got shot, they did the gun buyback. And really, in this city right here, a $100 coupon for a gun when you can sell that same gun on the street for $300, it's asinine. These approaches are wrong approaches, and they're not approaches. All it speaks to is that your politicians are getting paid, and they like getting their paycheck, and they're going to do the least as possible to get that paycheck. That is ridiculous because other than talking to you and talking to other hosts, the residents and the constituents got their back up against the wall in this city, man.
Yeah. This is some great points that you make, Prince. And I think I like the way you framed it earlier in those comments. And I'm going to let you go so I can bring on one other caller. But I like the way you framed it. And we can talk about it earlier on, maybe when you call next time, where you were saying, how city leaders, folks, whether it's in city council, city hall, they respond very swiftly to their campaign donors. Which is, that's how politics works, right? And so, when do we reach a point where constituents become part of the campaign donor class? I've thrown this question out here, either on air or I've talked to folks offline about it. Imagine, okay, so you have, for example, a place where we estimate 400,000 people are living in very distressed economic circumstances, are impoverished. So just imagine, and I put this out here, I think it's within the realm of possibility you know, because right now you just have this ecosystem or this collection of nonprofits and advocacy groups, and you know, that they're kind of on the front line, or they fashion themselves as being on the front line, telling, you know, telling City Hall or demanding things from City Council. But imagine if you had 200, 300, 400, 500,000 people in Philly who were in those impacted, distressed populations, each contributing $5 to a community-wide, city-wide public action, a political action committee. Just imagine, and that's what determines the political wins, the political shifts in a city like Philadelphia. I don't think anyone's like really done anything ambitious or bold like that before. Let me go to Maurice out of Southwest, who's I haven't seen that, like not on that scale, and I think people need to start thinking on a big scale like that. Maurice out of Southwest is calling in for a reality check. Hey, Maurice.
Hey, Charles. How you doing, Charles?
Hey, what's happening? How you doing?
Great topic, man. We need to do more talking about local. I know that's your thing, and I like to do the down limit of Philadelphia, but, you know, I dig it. I dig it. I do dig it, because we need to know what's going on the outside of Philadelphia. But right now, we got something as bad as coronavirus right here, and it's called murder. And we got to deal with it and stop passing it by. Prince was right on point. You know, we have a $10 million camera system in this city, and they never talk about using it, but they used it for that white guy. You know that. We got one of the best camera systems in the country. You shoot a gun off, all the cameras turn your way. Wherever that gunshot is or backfire in the car, the cameras will turn and focus in that direction. 6 square blocks. So, you know, when they say they're not doing it, look, I can't even remember the last time I seen a paddy wagon. I see police cars, but I don't see no paddy wagons in my neighborhood. And I'm in the hot spot. I'm in the 4-3 area code, the most murders in the city, and we got 2 police. I live in the middle of 2 police districts, one on Woodland Avenue and one on Pine Street. And Pine Street is the detective. It's really that bad. You know that Curtis Jones is in charge of the cameras, right?
Yeah.
And when are you gonna get him on to talk about why the cameras are not used more? Why they only used for the special people or people up in the Northwest? They get to use them, but we don't get to use them out here in Southwest or West Philly. We don't even have a gun shop in our area. We don't have no gun shops in Southwest or South Philly or West Philly. We don't have any gun shops. So they keep talking about a buyback. You talking about 200? That's nothing. Like Fred said, it's talking about 1 million people here. That 200, you don't even get the money. Basically, he's giving you a food stamp card, and you cash in that food stamp card to get some butter and milk. Ain't nobody turning. Not no killers ain't turning in their money. You got good people that might got a gun around they ain't using no more. But as far as killers, they ain't turning their gun in for no food stamp card.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, when are we going to start doing something and get for real? And I tell you something, if City Council was white, we'd be burning City Hall down right now. But because of the people that run this show are black, we keep giving them a pass. You know what they are? They're a bunch of bushwhackers, sharecroppers, and butlers that work up there. And I'm tired of it. And I'm tired of them coming on here talking all sweet and whatnot, and they know that if they got blood on their hands, we need to call them out. They got blood on their hands.
And so, you know, keep that pressure on, you know, and thanks for the comments, Maurice. So I'll let you go before I go into break here. I'm going to go to a quick break. May take a real quick call after we go into that break, but just keep thinking about that. The constituents becoming that campaign contribution class. It's on average, I think the average Philadelphia City Council race, if I'm correct, costs about $100,000. And so if you had 400,000 residents contributing $5 each to a community-based political action committee, that's $2 million right there in the PAC bank. And you have the right people overseeing that PAC. I mean, it's things like that. I'm just saying, you know, between much higher voter turnout and then creating a community-based PAC, just $5. You know, people, I mean, folks can come out with $5, put it in that PAC, that's $2 million, and you could dramatically alter the trajectory of city politics. And I mean, they're suddenly, they'll be responding to you then, because, you know, and I think that there was some legislation that was, I think Derek Green was looking at legislation several years ago to have citywide campaigns publicly financed, which is something we might want to explore again. Let me take a break. I've gone over time here. Let me take a break, and when we come back, I'll take a couple of calls when we come back. Kenny out of Alton, Gary out of Southwest, hold on, and then we're going to be bringing on Gary Cunningham of Prosperity Now. He's supposed to be joining us next, talking about Black agenda concerns in this new administration. Here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Just one more step. You got it.
You're doing great. This is the sound of a nationally ranked top rehabilitation hospital, home to the largest collection of robotics in the United States, where we continually exceed patient expectations, because no injury is too severe or too minor for our care.
There you go.
This is the sound of success. Moss Rehab. Challenge accepted.
Attention WURD audience, do you know that you can get help with your PICO energy bill? PICO is here to help you with financial help through various assistance programs, including the PICO CAP program, which provides a monthly credit for eligible low-income customers based on the customer's total household gross income and energy usage. If you are experiencing financial hardship, you may qualify for the PICO CAP program.
And PICO Cares is the customer assistance and referral evaluation service designed to assist special needs, low-income customers who have a temporary personal or financial hardship that prevents the payment of your PICO energy bill. If you have a special needs child or adult in your care, your household may qualify for the CARES program.
Call 1-800-774-7040 today to see if you qualify due to an existing situation or a change in circumstances within your household. Call 1-800-774-7040 today for more information on the PICO CAP or PICO CARES program. PICO, powering our communities.
Lifting every voice till earth and heaven ring. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Real quick, before we bring on our next guest, I just wanted to take a phone call or two. We had listeners, they're pretty passionate about just the state of politics in the city. Let me go to Kenny out of Alton, who's calling in for a reality check. Kenny?
Hey, Charles, how are you?
How are you doing, sir? All right.
All right. I tried to call in yesterday. The lines was jammed when you had Isaiah on. You were asking him about Dr. Height. And this station has Dr. Height on twice a week on a Saturday. And all Dr. Height does for those 2 hours is promote those magnet schools. He doesn't promote the regular school, because there are some exceptional students in those schools. And then what winds up happening is the rest of the schools are doing poorly except for those magnet schools.
Yeah.
So when I heard Councilman Thomas talking about, the one thing that Dr. Hay did that you railed on it when it first came out, and it pissed me off too, because I used to work for the school board when they moved into that new building that's part of the Inquiry building.
Right.
He renovated his office for $150,000 when he crime broke for the school district. So why did you have to spend $150,000 to renovate your office when you got schools with asbestos and you got kids who are not improving academically, not prepared to just do basic things? And so
it's a good, make a very cogent point, Kenny. And then, once again, going back to, like we've discussed before, I would think that the key performance metric of a major urban school district like a Philadelphia, or any urban school district for that matter, particularly where the majority of the students are black, is reading achievement scores, math achievement scores, just basic reading, math, and science literacy, but especially reading, especially when we have a high adult illiteracy rate in a city like Philadelphia. And apparently he's not meeting the mark on that. Well, it's not just him; it's the entire school system. And we're gonna. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's an essential conversation that we have not had yet. And it's been going on for generations. It's not like this is something that popped up recently. It was even since when I was going to Philadelphia public schools, and I had to escape. I had to get out. Had to get out of it, escape, got a full scholarship, thank goodness, to a private school outside of Philly, and just took it because it was like I couldn't grow, and I wish everyone had that same opportunity. But you're absolutely right. There's once again it's that urgency of now that we're not seeing, in that leadership class, and it's got to happen when, only what was the reading performance assessment test for Philly was 36%. 36%. That's the score for reading. When the state is 64%. It's just, I mean, come on.
Right.
So, real quick, Kenny, so I can bring our guest on. Yeah, I'll let you end after. Go ahead and make your last comment.
We have Woody on, and he talks about it, but
absolutely,
he doesn't want to account to me, you, taxpayer, because that show is no phone call. And then the meetings that he has for the public is like, we'll be all day with it. But thank you.
Right. Thank you. And we'll be a little bit more intentional. I definitely want us to talk about it. I think people need to openly air their discontent about it, but we also have to be much more deliberative and intentional, as always, figuring out, okay, well, when do, I encourage people to find out, and we'll do a better job of reminding people, as frequently as possible, when do those school board meetings take place? Things are happening in virtual environments. It doesn't require you to go a distance to go. So now you have an opportunity to tap in online. When are those school board meetings taking place? When are city council education committee meetings taking place? City council has the power of the purse over the school district. If they're not doing what they need to do to make sure young people and adults in the city of Philadelphia, it shouldn't be a situation here where we have like over 30% of adults in the city of Philadelphia are functionally illiterate. I mean, it's insane. So if they're not doing their job, okay, city council, what do you need to look at in the budget here to make the school system do what it's supposed to do correctly? Kenny, I gotta let you go. I'm glad I wanted to bring you in. Gary, we'll get you at some later point on it. I want to bring our guest on, but Kenny, thanks for those comments. And, once again, education, K through 12 education is one of those, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the 12 o'clock hour, is one of those issues that we constantly overlook, but it's a fundamental pillar issue. Gary Cunningham is our guest, and I want to thank him for his patience too. Gary Cunningham is our next guest. He's the president, CEO of Prosperity Now. It's a national Washington, D.C. based nonprofit. They focus on racial wealth equity and racial justice issues. For more on them, go to prosperitynow.org to learn more about them. Gary, thanks so much for your patience. Thanks for your time. You might want to weigh in on that conversation too. K through 12 education, how the disparities there and how that impacts, and those disparities are intentional, how that impacts Black populations or distressed populations in places like Philadelphia.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ellison, for having me today. I really appreciate being here. Just so happens I'm a former associate superintendent for Minneapolis Public Schools for a number of years. So I certainly understand the importance of creating an educational system that works, particularly for Black children, but for all children. If you look at big city schools throughout the country, not just in Philadelphia or in Pittsburgh, but throughout the country, these huge gaps in education. In fact, as you mentioned earlier, you can walk across the street in some cases and get a better education than you can in big city schools these days. And so it's a shame. It's something that has to be addressed. And my hope is that with the election of President Biden and his focus on racial equity, that we'll start getting to the bottom of some of these deep end issues and what they call institutional advantage, that people maintain the institution at the expense of our children.
Yeah. when you look at those priorities that the Biden administration has to focus on with respect to like those disparities we're just discussing, like K through 12 education, for example, or these deep gaps, segregation and the systemic racism that's still running rampant in a lot of private and public sector institutions, like how do we synthesize that whole conversation? Like what's the pitch there to the administration on specifically what they need to focus on to get things moving forward? Because right now there's a big conversation, I'm sure you're aware of it, about, Biden administration's been here, but just under a week officially, but people are feeling like, okay, it feels like the administration, the president's going bold, going big on other issues, but not issues with respect to Black people and racial equity, racial justice.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the executive order that the president signed yesterday was a good start. Meaning within that order, he singles out not only issues within the federal government that need to change with regards to policy that's coming down from all levels of the federal government. He's also focused on external issues of addressing some of the issues that we're talking about here right now. Now, it's a good start. We have to be alert and organized and bring our advocacy to the Capitol, because this history of 400 years that we've been through, we need to be vigilant. So just while I support what the president has attempted to do, I certainly appoint some of the appointments that he's made. We certainly need to hold the system accountable. This gap, for every 14 cents that a Black person has, a white person has $1. So this gap that we have in wealth, this gap that we have in education, and the other gaps we have are so critical for us to address that we need cohesion within our community to actually stand together to attack these issues. And it's a great opportunity right now.
Yeah. So an executive order where one executive order that's standing out is he's putting the Domestic Policy Council, which is led by former National Security Advisor, also UN Ambassador Susan Rice, in charge of coordinating, quote, efforts to embed equity principles, policies, and approaches across the federal government. This is pretty much, we knew that the White House was going to be starting this office on racial equity, and so that's pretty significant. The 1776 commission that President Trump has started is now officially done, is gone, it's ended. And it's also, there's a big mandate, an executive order for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, now under former Congresswoman Marsha Fudge's purview, to promote equitable housing policies. What are those, the pillar issues, right? I think that I feel like we need to find a cadence here. I think things are kind of scattered, and you're in that community, that advocacy community, Mr. Cunningham, that has to lay out these demands. But I think the languaging, and I think the conversation is still kind of scattered. I think the pillar issues are health, wealth, and education. And I think that has to be the cadence. People have to know specifically what those demands are. But I think I think these are all good issues. But over here, once it's police accountability, and over there is criminal justice reform. And then a lot of people it needs to be reparations. But I think we need to focus on core, what are those core pillar, fundamental, foundational issues we need to focus on? I think it's health, wealth, and education, but what say you?
I say those are important issues. I also think you have to include taxes in there, because it has been the tax structure and the tax system that has driven the racial wealth divide in this country, in part. So I think you have to add taxes, because it's how resources get distributed and how benefits get distributed. So if you look at the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is probably the most effective program in the country in moving people out of poverty, and the president has included that in his agenda to expand that so that people of color, particularly and Black people, can actually move out of the poverty we have. I think the other thing that's important, I want to agree with you on those 3 points. I want to say that because that's powerful. But I also want to add that there's something specific. So Senator Booker has a bill, the American Opportunities Act, which focuses on creating what they call baby bonds. Baby bonds are long-term commitments so that you, at birth, you start investing in young people, that there is specific targeted towards low-income people. So when you get 18, you can actually invest in education. You can actually invest in business. You can actually invest in a home. And that our data shows that if we were to implement this program over a generation, we would completely close the racial wealth gap in this country. So we need to do big things.
Yeah.
We need to do specific things, because we've been talking about the same. Black people are the most researched people in the country.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been researched. We've been diagnosed, and for over 200-300 years, and nothing's really changed. In fact, some of the most recent work that has come out shows that from an economic perspective, Black people are no better off today than they were in 1968 as a group. And so, we need to actually do something that's big enough to get at the problem. And part of the problem has been what you've seen in the last 4 years is white backlash to Black progress. And so this white backlash every time, going back to Reconstruction, carrying it forward to today, has been what has, as we start making progress, whites don't agree with that, and we get backlash. After the Civil Rights Movement, we had whitelash. We had the creation of the war on crime. We had drugs being brought into our community. So as a people, this is our time to actually stand up and make a difference, like our forefathers that came before us. So we didn't get here by ourselves, but now is the time. And so I want to ask all your listeners to start actually going to their legislators and asking them to implement long-term programs of systemic change, because we keep dealing with incremental change or change that doesn't really deal with the roots of the problem. Yeah. The other thing we need to do is we as a people also need to uplift the positive things in our community, and we need to lift each other up, because we're part of the reason this country has excelled is not only on our labor, but also on the fact that we have held this country to its principles of democracy through the Civil Rights Movement, et cetera. So we are vital. We are a part of this country, and we can no longer be denied.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that earlier too, because we see all these studies after studies after studies and research on the gaps and what we're going through, the data. And that data, don't get me wrong, that data is very useful. We share that data all the time. You need that data to bolster the arguments that we're making here for a much more equitable future, for a completely equitable future, not even much more, just a completely equitable future. That's the goal, that's the mission. But it is frustrating, when you have all that study and the research and all the data being collected and captured, but nothing's being done. And so you just kind of, you feel like just like those lab rats you see, spinning on that wheel, and it's just going on and on and on. We're talking with Gary Cunningham. He is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Prosperity Now, advocacy nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. Go to prosperitynow.org for more information. We're here on Reality Check. We're 96.1 FM, 900 AM in Philly proper. Throughout the nation, throughout the world, you're listening to us on WURDradio.com and watching us on WURD TV as well. You see we have Mr. Cunningham joining us by Skype, and you're watching him on WURD TV. Wanted to ask you while we got you for a couple more minutes, Mr. Cunningham, you had published a piece in the nonprofit Quarterly. It's entitled "Strengthening Our Identity: Rethinking the Path to Black Liberation." And so, what is that path? What is that rethought path or reimagined path to full Black liberation? First, how are we defining Black liberation, right?
Well, number one, I want to take off on the previous statement because it ties directly into this idea of Black liberation and a new path. Part of what we see is that the data on its own, even though it's overwhelming and in the direction of that we need to do something about disparities, et cetera, over the years, we've seen no one react to that. And because I've come to the conclusion that it's not about logic. It's not about another report. In part, it's really about how do we as African American people actually build more positive images of ourselves in our community, because we buy into the stereotype threats that have been imposed on us from externally. We buy into it. There's all kind of social science research and social psychology research that says if you take someone and you tell them that they're not good, they're not good at what they do, that they're the lowest in every category, and you say that over and over to them, somehow they start to believe that of themselves. And so there is this issue of Black people having strengths, right? We have strengths. We have things that we bring that are inert to the table, that we bring things that are positive to the table, and that we need to address the stereotype threat with stereotype boost, meaning we need to have a positive framing of our own narrative. And by positively framing our own narrative, we will build social cohesion, because without the social cohesion of African American people, and we've had it at different times in history. We've had social cohesion during the Civil Rights Movement. We had social cohesion during the Reconstruction. We had social cohesion during the Harlem Renaissance. I could go on where Black people have actually progressed, and they progressed not because we were telling a negative story and a negative narrative about who we are, but we were reinforcing a positive narrative about who we are, and we're reinforcing that not for this generation, but the generations to come. And that's what we need to be focused on as a people. And that means we got to have some deep conversations between us, because I remember a time during the early 70s where there was a feeling where you could walk in the community and say, hey, brother, how you doing? And people would be taking care of each other in our community. I'm not saying that none of that goes on today. With the Black Panther Party and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and other things that happen to actually give us a positive boost. And so this idea of us continuing to tell a negative story about our own conditions and what we do is not, in my opinion, the right way to go. We need to reframe this narrative so we can actually stand up and be proud of who we are, and what we're going to represent into the future.
Got it. Real quick, Gary, I have a listener that had a real quick question for you. Woody out of Winfield, Woody from the barbershop, has a quick question for Gary Cunningham before we let him go here. President, CEO of Prosperity Now. Woody, how are you doing?
Oh, man, beautiful, beautiful program. Mr. Cunningham, I really appreciate all your information. I just look at blacks, I don't call them blacks, they're the children of the former chattel slaves living in America today. They're not African Americans. African Americans come here and get a good education from their country, and they take advantage of the colleges. The children of those slaves are the opposite of that. I would love for you, Donald Trump, when he first came in, made the comment, African Americans, what the hell, you got to lose, your schools are all messed up, can't get money from your banks, you're being gentrified out your neighborhoods. I wrote him a letter, September 25th, 2016, Philadelphia Tribune, a letter to Donald Trump. I would love for you to read that letter. The other letter that I wrote was in June 2nd, 2020, same newspaper, to Joe Biden when he made the comment that the black guy wasn't black enough. See, whites don't know what it means to be the children of slaves. So they keep calling us African Americans. No, they can't imagine what we go through. We needed our communities back then, and we still need them today because we've been treated so unfairly. 400 years of chattel slavery, and then made not to read or get your fingers cut off, your hand cut off, your eyes pulled out. These are horrible, horrible things that cause all kinds of mental reactions, and we're wondering why we're having what we're having. You just collected all these guns. Guns don't kill. People do. So it's the mindset that we have to attack and deal with this issue from that perspective as it relates to reading, writing, and arithmetic. Adults are walking around with children and grandchildren that can't read, write, spell, or count. We got a school system, 154 basic schools and 98,000 children going to those schools, and 21 of those schools are doing 0% in reading. These are the things that I'm talking about, and I'm not going to hold you guys much longer. Hopefully you'll read that article or those two articles. I really appreciate that, Mr. Cunningham.
Well, number one, thank you for your call, and I certainly will get a hold of those articles and read them because I think you're on the right track. If you read my article in the Nonprofit Quarterly, you'll see that I talk about the same thing. I go back to finding my own roots and my own history, but also I found that there were folks that were in my history that had done some remarkable things, that had actually, my second great grandfather was the chief Supreme Court justice for the Creek tribe. And I could go on because there are people that have been before us that have done great things. If you don't see greatness in yourself, you will never be able to exhibit greatness. And so that's that, you know, I mean, everything you said makes a lot of sense to me. And we have not done well under either administration in our history. So we need to be real about that. And we need to actually take this to the next level today. So thank you so much for that eloquent question and comments.
Thanks so much, Woody. I appreciate you as always calling in and just and Woody beating that drum on that illiteracy crisis that we're faced with. That's something we needed. We talk about that quite a bit on this program, Mr. Cunningham. So I'm going to let you go. Definitely need to have you back. So the invitation is open. Really appreciate you, Gary. And then we'll see you on the other side of the apocalypse as well, because we broadcast frequently from Washington, D.C. So maybe, you know, once everything settles down, the coronavirus dust settles, we'll do a live broadcast with you. We're talking with Gary Cunningham, President, CEO of Prosperity Now. Go to prosperitynow.org for more information. He's also at Prosperity Gary on social media, on Twitter more specifically, if you'd like to find out what he's up to or engage him there. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Ellison, I'd be glad to be back anytime you have me. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you.
Care.
All right, we'll be in touch. Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back on the other side, we're scheduled to talk with Kevin. Speaking of education, we're going to continue that education conversation, and we're going to talk with Kevin Chavis, former D.C. City Council member, now president of Stride Incorporated. We're talking about closing that education equity gap. How do we do that, and what they're about to do about it? There's a big national forum on education equity that is coming up next week. So Kevin Chavis is going to talk with us a little bit about that and about equity issues within K-12 education coming up next here on Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, WURD family, Reverend Leroy with a boss good recommendation for Clark Roofing. I found them to be a solid business, honest, dependable, fast, and clean workers. Mr. Clark stands by his work. Call him at 215-365-7663.
Call Clark Roofing and ask for second-generation master roofer Calvin Clark. Clark Roofing professionally installs a variety of roofing systems for your home or businesses. Call Clark Roofing at 215-365-7663 or visit their website at clarkroofingpa.com.
Teachers shape the future. Right now, in a classroom somewhere in the United States, there's a teacher inspiring a future scientist who'll make preventing pandemics their life's work. Sharpening the mind of an aspiring environmentalist who'll help combat climate change, and generating possibilities for a student who'll be the first in their family to graduate college. Explore a career that leaves a legacy you can be proud of. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
While we try to reach him right now, we'll just open up the phone lines. I'm sure he'll show up very shortly. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Speaking of backlash, speaking of white backlash or white lash, I was really saddened when I heard last week. I did not know this, but the author of White Lash, Terry Smith, had transitioned last year. And I heard that from his publishers at Cambridge University Press. We were actually wanted to reach back out to him, bring him back on the program to talk about what I thought was just an amazing book entitled White Lash, Unmasking White Grievance at the Ballot Box. So it was a groundbreaking read. I couldn't stop reading it. I remember I was reading it before pandemic on an air flight, and I couldn't drop on the flight over to the West Coast and then back. I read the whole book couldn't put it down. We had Terry Smith on. I did not know he had passed away suddenly, and Cambridge University Press let us know. So just for people who know, and they enjoyed that interview. I know we had him a couple of years ago. We don't have him anymore. Just a lot of greats that we've lost over the past year, especially, and some people that we've had on this show. So it's just really very saddened to hear. Terry Smith, law professor. He was a law professor, black law professor, and wrote just a wonderful book, White Lash. So we don't have him anymore. But I highly recommend people buy that book and read it. White Lash, Unmasking White Grievance at the Ballot Box is a very, very good read. It had a Derek Bell kind of feel to it, if you know who Derek Bell is, if you remember him. Another great mind, iconic black law professor who is with the ancestors now. So, our deepest condolences to Terry Smith's family and also the folks at Cambridge University Press. They seemed deeply, when they told me, they were like, oh my gosh, it hit them very hard too. Apparently he was well liked. Kevin Chavis is joining us now. Kevin, it's good to see you. How are you doing, Kevin? It's hard to get used to calling you Kevin. I always just was used to calling you Councilman. Former DCC, you did some great work in the District of Columbia. Was former councilman with the District of Columbia City Council. Is now president, oversees public affairs and a number of other operations at Stride Incorporated, what is now Stride Incorporated. They have a major national forum on education equity that is next Wednesday. I was just talking about it earlier with folks. You probably heard about it. Talking about K-12 education equity gaps next Wednesday, February 3rd. Go to strideedequity.com for more information. Kevin, it's good to see you. Happy New Year to you and all that good stuff.
Thank you. So good to see you.
Excellent. What prompted this education equity forum? This is a big deal. I know Roland Martin is going to be moderating that the series of panels, or at least the keynote panels as well. Got a lot of important names in education and K-12 education. What prompted this?
Well, I can tell you, Charles, to be honest, it all started with George Floyd. In the wake of what happened last summer, our executive chairman, Nate Davis, and several of us, we said, look, we need to do more. And what can we do? If we are the largest online education company in the country, what can we do to ensure there's more equity in education, to make sure there are more black educators that are in our schools? We have about 6,000 to 7,000 teachers with our partner schools around the country, particularly male educators. So we started this effort, We Stand Together, where we made a commitment like scholarships, $10 million in scholarships to black students. Law enforcement curriculum. We now are working with other partners to create a state-of-the-art curriculum on proper legal and law enforcement techniques. And then, of course, on the impact of systemic racism in history. A K-12 interactive course, that's one of the things we're doing. And then we said we wanted to have this education equity forum. We reached out to Roland Martin. He's going to moderate it, and we're very, very excited because we're going to be dealing with a whole lot of issues that really encompass the education equity challenge.
Do you feel like there is an urgent enough conversation that's happening right now? So, I hear this conversation about school closures, whether or not we should open schools, whenever we reflect on education. But we went through a whole 2020 election cycle, right, Kevin, where it didn't seem like education was really prioritized in the national conversation about all the big policy issues we need to focus on. And that happened in the previous big election cycle, and it happened in the one before that. We seem to always take education, K-12 education, for granted. And I'm wondering, what's your thoughts on the trajectory of that conversation right now? Are we getting, especially with this new administration, are people understanding that it's not just about school closures or how our students are adapting to online education? We've got some serious gaps that are here that we need that need closing.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. It is not the priority it should be. And the truth is, according to the Department of Education, 2/3 of America's high school graduates, that's 2/3, are neither college nor career ready. And that's not an indictment of any one school. It really is an indictment on us for not ensuring that our children are graduating with the skills they need to go to college or to get a meaningful job. And this lack of priority, and by the way, whenever it is discussed, it's discussed through the lens of politics. And I think that this is one issue that should transcend the politics of the day. I mean, you've heard me say there's no Republican or Democratic way to teach a kid how to read, write, and count. And I think that the pandemic, one thing that it did with kids having to learn online at home, now parents have a real window into what their kids really do know, how they're being taught, and some of the things that that work and some of the things that don't work. So I would like to think that with the Biden administration, we can get a reset, that we can somehow depoliticize it. This equity discussion is important because we do need to make sure that educational opportunities are available to kids with diverse needs. We have a diverse array of students in our schools now, and they need to be met where they are. And so there's a whole robust discussion around this that we're proud to be a part of. But you're right, Charles, in order to address the problem, one, we need to acknowledge it. And the only way to acknowledge it is to lift up education as a discussion item.
You know, this has been a big year pandemic for a company like Stride, largest remote learning, online learning education company in the country, in the nation, perhaps even in the world. And I'm sure there have been a lot of lessons learned going through that process of adapting to this pandemic environment. One, what are some of those lessons that you have learned kind of as a company rolling out or providing that kind of service and that kind of technology? But two, talk about how now, now that we've dealt with this real big test of remote learning, how this can be a really big way to close those gaps that we're talking about, to finally, solve the education equity problem. Because I'm seeing that after we get out of this, people are now more and more attracted to like a hybrid approach, for example. There's been a lot of discussion about that. We can now do remote learning while at the same time, at times, young people can go to those physical spaces as well.
Yeah, you're right, Charles. Look, I tell people, it's like some of the ads we ran, that online learning is not for everybody, but it should be available for anybody. And we are the only public schools, the schools that we've run and partnered with our school district and charter schools that run around the country. Our schools, the only schools in America that have remained open throughout the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And I think that when parents experience the frustration of their kids learning online in their traditional school districts, they should keep in mind, while it's worked in some instances, there have been challenges in others. There's a difference between emergency crisis remote learning and online learning administered by people who actually know what they're doing. We've been doing it for 20 years. We work with Southern New Hampshire University and create the first of its kind Masters in Virtual Education Teaching. We work with over 1,000 school districts. There are just over 13,000 school districts in America. We have relationships with over 1,000 of them where we provide teacher training. We make sure that textbooks can be adapted online. There's a secure platform. I think that what I see coming down the road is, one, the Biden administration and all states should consider better emergency preparedness so the school districts can develop the skills to be able to provide these online offerings for families. And by the way, a great teacher in a brick and mortar setting can be a great teacher online if they get training. Teacher training is critically important. And then the other thing is it's important to keep in mind, Charles, that at the end of the day, I think you're right, that with the various diverse challenges that our school children need, this idea of hybrid learning, a combination of face-to-face, where you're there 2 or 3 days a week, you get the socialization, but then online learning, where kids can work at their own pace. It works for talented and gifted kids or kids with special needs. I think that combination is part of the future. And I think that maybe in the wake of the pandemic, it's opened America's eyes to the possibility that there's something else that we can do to help kids learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that work firsthand. We've got our 15 going on 16-year-old is going to George Washington University online high school. So
I didn't know that. That's a great school.
So
I spoke at their graduation a couple years ago. Great school.
It is, yeah. She and so she had an opportunity. Started their 8th grade, just to see what it was like. It was highly recommended. Loved it. But then went to brick and mortar. Then the pandemic happened, went to brick and mortar. And then she said, you know what? She's like, I miss GW. Let's go back to So we see the results. I mean, it's just real good results. Real last question. One of those panels is on Black educators. One of those panels for the Ed Equity Summit Forum next week. Talk about the real critical role that Black teachers, Black educators play in closing these gaps.
Look, it's huge. The reality is that probably less than, I can't remember the exact numbers, but less than 9% of all educators in this country are Black, even fewer in terms of Black males. We've got Dr. Michael McFarland, who's president of the National Alliance of Black School Educators. We have the president of Bennett College and the chief of staff for Southern University System, Katara Williams. Suzanne Walsh is the president of Bennett College. They're going to talk about how we can engender better interest in education among Black educators, and then place them in school districts around the country where they can have an immediate impact. That is huge, particularly not just the imagery, but the diversity that all students need to make sure that they're getting a well-rounded education and that there are well-rounded images in front of them in their classrooms where they're learning. So we're excited about that conversation, and I think that this has to be an intentional effort. Like, we're very intentional about making sure that we hire more African-American educators and Hispanic educators, and all school districts need to do the same.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. We've been talking, if you've just been now tuning in, we've been talking with Kevin Chavis, President, Academic Policy and External Affairs at Stride Incorporated. For more information, go to stridelearning.com. But more importantly, this is free. This big forum, this National Education Equity Forum, is free of charge. Highly recommended. Go to strideedequity.com. I highly recommend it because we've been missing out on a big, urgent national K-12 education conversation. I really appreciate Councilman Chavis, former Councilman Chavis, former District DC Councilman Chavis, and his colleagues putting this together because we really need it. It's that time. So strideedequity.com for more information. Kevin, it's great seeing you. We'll talk to you again. We'll have you back.
Thanks so much, Charles.
Take care.
Be safe, my brother.
All right, you do the same. Be safe out there. Thank you.
All right.
All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, phone lines are open as we wrap this Tuesday edition. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
As a business owner, hiring and developing people from the community that your company serves is one of the best ways to show commitment to that community. Let WURD Radio help with Livelihood, our new initiative that connects Philadelphians with companies like yours. We'll feature your business, open employment opportunities, and resources to connect your company with talent and ensure that you reach your target demographic. To learn more about how Livelihood can help you build your team, visit wordworks.com. That's WURD Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDRadio.com.
Welcome back to Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDRadio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. 215-634-8065. Those phone lines are open at 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Lots of comments there on the Facebook Live page, so we'll get to that shortly. But first, well, we've got those. Let's go to those phone lines. First, though, we have Gary out of Southwest. He's been waiting patiently. He called in before, so let's bring him on here on Reality Check. Gary, what's up?
Hey, Charles. How you doing?
How you doing? All right.
I'm good. I was listening to your segment when you were talking to Prince, and he was right on point. You know, Charles, we shouldn't have to. I know the politicians there, theoretically, they work for us, and our tax dollars are paying their salaries. And I understand the PACs and everything and about contributing money, but we're paying their salary, so they should be working for us and working towards our best interest. And they're not doing that at all. I don't understand how they can even sleep at night knowing what our communities are going through. Like, we can talk about the drugs and the crime. Well, quite frankly, I don't even see police around patrolling our neighborhoods and our community. You know, a white young man gets murdered, and all of a sudden they can find the person really quick.
Yeah.
You know, the entire black community, I know I am. I'm just outraged. You know, and to look at a person who looks like me, who's in a position where he or she is supposed to be representing me, and this is still going on, and then they can come on WURD. They owe us. They owe an explanation for why our communities and our people are being neglected, why our schools are so terrible. It's no excuse, Charles. There's no excuse. We pay their salaries. I retired from the city working for 3 city controllers. If I didn't do my job, guess what? Gary would have been fired. Okay?
Yeah.
And I know about the school district auditing it. I've seen it inside out, and it's a disgrace of how they treat our people, Charles. And I know they can say, well, our people don't get engaged and they don't come out. Well, you know, you got young mothers or you got some parents working 2 and 3 jobs. They can't even be at home with their children because they're trying to keep just a basic roof over their heads. These politicians, their children can go to the best schools. Check out, do research and see what schools their children go to, okay? They wouldn't let their child go to a school that was falling down and asbestos all in it and exposed, and they didn't have the proper learning tools. You know, when my son, like I said this before, my sons went to Masterman, but my wife and I, we bit the bullet. We paid for private school, man. I gave up a lot. I sacrificed a lot to be able to do that. Michael Nutter's daughter was there at the same time. And, you know, this guy had a nerve, one of the security guys had a nerve to look at me like, what was I doing there? And I'm like, are you really serious, dude? I was waiting for him to say something to me, but he didn't say anything, but I guess because he saw the look on my face. But all I'm just saying is to say, we deserve better, Charles, and I was only blessed to be able to do that. I'm not bragging about it or anything like that. I don't want anybody to take it the wrong way. But
no, I understand.
The fact that these black politicians are ignoring our needs, they're ignoring the crime in our community, the guns. And this thing about buying a gun, bringing a gun and they give you, what, $100, whatever they give you, that's nonsense. It's insulting. It's belittling. And you know what? I am tired of all those people down there. And I pray to God that we wake up as a collective and say, it's time for them to go. Really
let me let you go, Gary. I got to let you. But no, I do appreciate, and I know those comments are heartfelt. I appreciate that passion and that frustration, too. I want to make sure I bring in some, because we have some other callers. I want to make sure we get them in before we go to break or wrap this Tuesday edition. Let me go to Joe out of Germantown, who's calling for a reality check. Joe?
Hey, Brother Charles, and your wonderful producer, Brother Mike. Let me say this.
How you doing, sir?
First off, I'm doing fine, Brother Charles. I'll praise you to our lives. First off, with the vaccination, give me an honor to follow Brother Gary and Brother Prince. Them are 2 good brothers that care about our community, man. Gary's a good brother, man. He cares, and Brother Prince the same way. That's why I hope Brother Prince, be done for office one day, because Brother Prince become a councilman or congressman. Brother Prince going to look out for the black community. There's no doubt in my mind. That's why I encourage Brother Prince to run for some kind of office because he really cares. But real quick, Charles, going to leave you pressed for time. On the vaccination, back in December, Charles, right around Christmas holiday, you had the beautiful sister on from Washington, the doctor, and she was talking about the vaccination, and she mentioned Dr. Abdul Muhammad from the Nation of Islam.
Right, Dr. Marilyn Corder, right. We're going to bring her back on.
You said you was considering bringing Dr. Abdul on your show. Brother Charles, I hope you make that happen. Because he's a beautiful brother, man. And see, my whole thing with the vaccination, Charles, I'm speaking for me myself personally, I would be reluctant to get it. But I wouldn't tell you or anybody else not to get it. I think everybody should should do the research and make an informed decision if they decide they want to get it. I don't think the government should force black people people or anyone else to get it. I think it should be an individual choice and everything like that. Because, and I close with this, Charles. All I'm saying is Hank Aaron's family, when the great baseball player Hank Aaron, when he died, his family said they want to see an independent investigation autopsy because they said that our grandfather was doing good, but once he got that shot, he died. And I'm not saying it caused his death, but it's a valid question. And autopsy may show if it had any effect on his death. I think that's a fair question. And again, nobody should be attacked if they question these things, because we live in a country, Charles, when all of a sudden all these white folks get so concerned about black people's health all of a sudden. These white cops gun our people down. They don't give a damn about that. Now all of a sudden they're so concerned about black people getting the vaccination. And again, I'm not saying it's good or it's bad. All I'm saying, Charles, is that everybody should make an informed decision on whether they want to get the shot or not. That's all I'm saying, Charles. I'll let you go on that note, okay, Charles?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Doctors have established that legendary, iconic baseball player Hank Aaron did not die from COVID-19 vaccine. So they've already established that, he was old, and, he had already been, he died at 86. He died very peacefully, according to his family, in his sleep. As with most families, after someone passes away and transitions, people are very private in a moment like that. They're not going to immediately tell you why he died, but it was apparently it was just from dealing with the complications of old age. And a lot of us have had family members who died at that age or maybe a little bit older, passed away in their sleep. So that's what that is. I mean, just to establish that it wasn't from vaccine. They've established that. The doctors have looked at it. His doctors, it was not COVID-19 vaccine. So that's the end of that. There's that on that conversation. Let me continue to go to the phone lines. We have, but thanks for calling in, Joe. I appreciate you. Horace out of West Philly is calling in for a reality check. Horace?
Hey, how you doing, Charles?
How you doing?
Just like to say, don't get sidetracked. We do need a new superintendent. When your guest said that 2/3 of students are not ready for career or college, and when they talk about equity, what people have to understand in Philadelphia, the equity in our schools in Philadelphia is the teachers. That's where it starts and stops. The teachers' salaries are equitable across your 0% schools all the way up to your 100% schools. And the next time you talk to these people talking about education, ask them, what would you do if half your high schools had 0% in a student achievement? Some of these schools had 0% for 4 years, 3 and 4 years. And to add note to that, 120 CTE programs / trades are in these 30 high schools. So if you got 30 high schools out of 50 that are coming in at an F in student achievement, there's no wonder why we have all this stuff. So please don't get sidetracked with the message of we need a new superintendent. And the COVID era.
I'm definitely not getting side. I appreciate you saying that too, Horace. My opinion on this still stands. The Philadelphia School District. I mean, it was a fair point the councilman made the other day. Hey, well, if we're going to do that kind of dramatic shift, we have to be very aware of how we go about that because we're in the middle of a pandemic. But at the end of the day, Philadelphia School District needs a new superintendent. It needs new leadership. It needs there needs to be a dramatic, fundamental shift in the way that Philadelphia is educating young people. Horace, you see it, you and your wife, you've collected some great information that people need to know that we're putting out on a regular basis and need to be much more aggressive about that. I'm still standing on that. I just think that City Hall is not doing enough at all, not doing anything really. And so we need to take another deeper examination, a deeper look at, I do agree with the councilman on this, you need a full-time, fully paid school board, none of this volunteer stuff. I think it's kind of, when I think about it more and more, I think it's kind of offensive that a school district like Philadelphia would have people volunteering on life and death matters like the education of our children like that. I think other people should be offended too. Should be full-time, fully paid positions. Real quick, Horace?
Yeah, but And also, everything runs through the superintendent. When the guy talked about a hybrid school board, well, the next question is how long would that take to establish that? When this guy came in 2012, he changed everything in 2 months. 2 months, people. So we can change everything back in 2 months, And these
very good point. Very good point.
Thank you. Thank you. I know I gotta go. You gotta go.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's a very good point you made, Horace. Thank you for that. Let me let you go. Derek, you got like a minute. Derek out of North Philly.
Love, peace, blessing, and prosperity to you, Charles.
Peace.
Charles,
all right.
Thank you for letting me have a reality check. I've been listening, and it's been a lot of things that's been said. And it's a little bit confusing to me as well. But I like to, in conclusion, if I could say, so I think that Dr. Ed Robertson Jr., as far as the school educational thing went, he wrote a agenda. Can we pick that up if we're going to move forward with confidence that we're not going to continue to repeat our past? Because a lot of these issues are taking place because it was said, written a long time ago in the Bible, that my people, and for paraphrasing, we're suffering because of lack of knowledge. And that's what's happening in Philadelphia. There's a lack of knowledge of self, of who we are, and the political power that we have. We got some political power, but why we don't have economic power? We need to realize that all this starts at home. So, for instance, I would like to see the time come where black folks walking towards each other. We can start greeting each other, and then we know we can see that I care about you, and because I care about you, let me tell you what's going on. Let me tell you what's going on politically and why I think you should get involved. We got to start communicating better than what we are. We need to be better.
That's true. Hey, Derek, I'm going to let you go there because we got to wrap. I care about you too, brother. I appreciate you too. I appreciate those comments. Yeah, thanks. You get the last word. That wraps this Tuesday edition of Reality Check. Stay tuned into WURD Radio. We got The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders. That's coming up next, so stay tuned. And I'm Charles Ellison. Thank Troy Wilmore. Also thank Mike C. as well at the Board of Steel, who is standing in for Troy, doing a wonderful job there. And I want to thank all the guests and all the listeners and people who called in. See you, God willing, tomorrow, Wednesday, 10 a.m. sharp. I'm at Ellison Report on #RealityCheck on Twitter.com. Please stay sharp, stay smart, but more importantly, everyone, I want you to stay safe out there and keep try to, as best you can, keep everyone around you safe too. All right, have a great afternoon, a good evening. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.